everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
Multiverse starting with Cursed Spirit Manipulation, Chapter 101 to 124, 101. This is going to be a bit loud. Next target, 400 horsepower. Don't worry, I've found them. At that moment, Kai suddenly stopped walking, as if he had noticed something. Hearing that, Haruno Yukinoshita and Soyo Nagasaki instinctively followed his gaze. I'm starving. Are we really going to starve to death in here? Not far away, a guy who looked just like a giant panda, in a Yukinoshita construction uniform spoke up in a tired voice. Beside him, Toji Inumaki also looked drained. Obviously, after not eating for several days, if it weren't for their enhanced physical constitution as jujitsu sorcerers, they would have collapsed a long time ago. But even so, they were barely clinging to life. They had almost no energy left to fight. Maki Zenin stood at the front and spoke with a dry throat, but she stayed calm. We'll figure something out. We've been missing for days. The school has definitely noticed by now. As long as we hold on a little longer, the higher-ups will definitely send someone to save us. Absolutely not. She hadn't grown strong yet. She hadn't become a powerful jujitsu sorcerer yet. How could she let an accident happen here? How could she die in a place like this? With that thought, Maki's eyes showed her determination. I just hope that Gojo hurries up. With no other options, Panda nodded. Toji Inumaki gave a weak nod too. Suddenly, the group heard the distinct sound of footsteps approaching. Even though they were starving, jujitsu sorcerers could still sense things much better than normal people. A second later, the three of them, who had just been slacking off, quickly straightened up and got back to work. Act natural. Don't let it notice anything suspicious. The other two quickly followed and started working seriously. For a moment, the sole sound was the chaos of construction. Seeing Kai standing perfectly still without saying a word, Haruno and Soyo exchanged a glance, both seeing the confusion in each other's eyes. But they had no choice. Since Kai wasn't saying anything, they just stood there, not sure what to do. Why hasn't it left yet? Working with her back turned, Maki didn't hear any retreating footsteps, and couldn't help muttering under her breath. Hold on, Maki. Something's wrong. Panda was the first to react. The three of them turned around in unison and immediately spotted Kai and his group. Seeing them turn to look, Kai casually raised a hand in greeting. Yo my ass. You're not cursed spirits. Who the hell are you? They could instantly recognize the aura of a cursed spirit. These people standing in front of them definitely weren't curses. However, Maki's gaze swept over Haruno and Soyo. These two just looked like normal girls. Finally, all three of them locked their eyes onto Kai. Kai was the only one Maki and the others couldn't read. Satoru Gojo sent me. Satoru Gojo. Hearing that name, the two humans and one panda froze for a second before understanding dawned on them. Their guarded expressions instantly relaxed. So you're here to find us. You could say that. Kai nodded. Thank goodness. We're saved. Panda sighed in relief and dropped to the ground. Toji Inumaki slumped down next to him. They were finally going to get out of here. They didn't know who this guy was, but if Satoru Gojo had sent him, he must have a way to get them out. After all, Gojo might seem unreliable most of the time, but when things got serious, everyone knew he was the most dependable person around. Then what were you doing just now? Maki was much more cautious than Toji and Panda, mostly because of her tough upbringing. If he was here to help, why didn't he do something right away? Why was he just standing there watching them? Oh, that. Kai shrugged and explained. You guys look so passionate about your work, I thought you enjoyed it. I didn't want to interrupt. Bullshit. Who the hell likes working? That answer almost made Maki want to punch him. Of course. Anyone sent by Satoru Gojo was sure to have a terrible personality. Who actually likes working here? Panda started complaining right away. I heard this construction site belongs to the Yukinoshita family. What a heartless company. Exploiting workers like this, no wonder it created a cursed spirit. Haruno looked over awkwardly when she heard that. She wanted to explain, but couldn't come up with a good excuse. No matter how you looked at it, this was undeniably the Yukinoshita family's fault. I am so sorry. Haruno wasn't the type to avoid her mistakes. After a moment, she turned to them, bowed deeply, and spoke honestly. This will never happen again. I promise to persuade my mother. We will never allow such extreme workloads in the future. Panda and the others quickly turned to look at her after the sudden apology. Even an idiot could figure it out. This girl was definitely connected to the Yukinoshita family. Forget it. Even if it wasn't you guys, there would just be some other normal people breeding cursed spirits instead. Maki said bluntly. Ultimately, as a protagonist-aligned character, she was inherently kind-hearted. She didn't intend to vent her anger on a girl over this, particularly since the girl had genuinely apologized. After Maki spoke, the heavy tension in the air faded away. At that moment, Panda noticed someone staring at him. He turned his head and saw Soyo Nagasaki looking at him with wide-eyed curiosity. Being naturally sociable, Panda raised a paw in greeting. The sudden movement startled Soyo, making her instinctively shrink back behind Kai. Only after making sure he wasn't dangerous did she muster the courage to peek back out. Are you really a panda? At first, she thought he was just someone in a mascot suit, but looking closer, she realized he wasn't. I'm a 100% real panda. Panda had seen this reaction many times before. Instead of getting offended, he waved his paw generously. What do you say? Want a hug? I'm the kind of fluffy panda that all girls adore. As he said that, he even wiggled his eyebrows at Soyo. Soyo suddenly felt disappointed. If he didn't look like a giant panda, he would sound just like a creepy middle-aged man. Even Haruno, who had just thought Yukino would love this panda since she adored cats and pandas, instantly changed her mind. I can never let Yukino anywhere near this perverted panda. Stop embarrassing us. Maki glared at Panda. She couldn't stand watching her teammate act like this. Our top priority right now is getting the hell out of here. You're right. He really was starving. He turned back to Kai. With no other options, they just had to wait and see if their savior had a plan. Has the cursed spirit shown up at all? Kai didn't rush to act. He wanted details first. Now that they were talking business, Maki answered seriously. When we first got trapped, we tried everything. We destroyed the surrounding buildings trying to force it out, but within moments, everything we destroyed regenerated, everything just goes back to normal. We have no way to deal with it. To this day, we still haven't even seen what the cursed spirit running this place actually looks like. It was embarrassing to admit, but Maki still explained everything. Regeneration, huh? No wonder. In a special domain like this, regular jujitsu sorcerers couldn't destroy it. Have you tried destroying everything in the area all at once? Even if it could regenerate, there had to be some limit. How could we do that? The construction site was huge. Maki immediately said it was impossible, at least with their current strength. If they couldn't do it, then this method probably had a good chance of breaking the domain. Thinking that, Kai turned to speak to the whole group. This next part might get a bit loud. Get behind me so you don't get caught in the blast. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 102, 102, bonus 1495 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. A bit loud. Unlike normal people such as Haruno Yukinoshita, and Soyo Nagasaki, who had no understanding of what jujitsu sorcerers were capable of. Maki Zenin, Toji Inumaki, and Panda exchanged a knowing glance and quietly moved behind Kai. If Satoru Gojo called this guy in, he was not someone to mess with. On top of that, they were weakened to the point where self-defense was becoming an issue. They didn't have the energy to worry about anything else. Seeing them move, Haruno and Soyo followed suit, and huddled behind Kai as well. Not a bad domain. Sweeping his gaze over the bustling workers around him, Kai brought his hands up, forming seals. I'll be taking it. Since it was a special grade cursed spirit, there was no reason to pass it up. The next second dash, fire style, majestic destroyer flame. Taking a slow, deep breath, an inferno erupted from Kai, washing over the surroundings like a tidal wave and consuming everything in its path. Boom! A string of blasts echoed through the domain. The heat transformed the place into a raging ocean of fire in a fraction of a second. Haruno's eyes went wide. She had assumed that while jujitsu sorcerers were mysterious, it was just a specialized profession. No matter how strong they were, there had to be a limit. But looking at reality, this was absurd. How could people with this kind of power exist in the world, yet she had never heard a whisper about them? Realizing the implications, Haruno drew in a sharp breath. On the other hand, the expressions of Maki and the others relaxed. With this level of power, resolving the situation here would be a walk in the park. Panda couldn't help but comment. That Gojo guy, he really is reliable when it matters. Toji nodded in agreement. As for Maki Zenin, she stared at Kai with a burning intensity in her eyes. If I had that kind of power, those bastards in the Zenin clan would never look down on me again. To this day, Maki's official jujitsu sorcerer grade remained at grade 4, the lowest rank. This wasn't because Maki was weak. On the contrary, even if she had to face a grade 2 cursed spirit solo, Maki could handle it without breaking a sweat. Her low rank was because the Zenin clan pressured jujitsu high to keep her suppressed at grade 4. If Maki had enough power that couldn't be denied. Even if the Zenin clan wanted to suppress her, they wouldn't be able to. Maki knew this better than anyone. That was why, compared to everyone else at Jujutsu High, Maki had a fiercer obsession with getting stronger. She didn't care about anything else. She wanted to force the Zenin clan to open their eyes and look at her. She wanted to prove that even someone born with almost no cursed energy could become a powerful jujitsu sorcerer through effort. Boom! The inferno showed no signs of stopping. Even standing behind Kai, with him controlling the blast radius, they could still feel the heat radiating off the flames. This destructive power. He has to be a special grade sorcerer. Panda wiped the sweat from his forehead. He already had enough for to deal with, this heat was getting unbearable. It's here. Sensing a shift, Kai cut off the flames. He turned his gaze toward a specific spot within the domain. As the fire receded, the domain had been reduced to a scorched wasteland. Everything had been destroyed. Despite this, certain sections were still trying to regenerate. But the scale of the destruction was too vast. The regeneration speed couldn't keep up. This forced the cursed spirit to expose itself. The ground caved in, and a hulking monstrosity dragged itself out from the crater. Its voice was a muffled drone that sent shivers down the spine. Its body looked like it was made of wet concrete, with jagged pieces of construction machinery and tools protruding from various points. Careful, it's a special grade cursed spirit. Even knowing that Kai was powerful, the moment the cursed spirit revealed itself, Maki yelled out a warning out of habit. Kai glanced at Maki, a confident smirk curling the corner of his lips. Dropping that single word, Kai vanished. This guy. Is he just like Satoru Gojo? Does he love showing off? But when Gojo showed off, it only left Maki feeling exasperated and a little annoyed. Thinking back to the smile Kai had just flashed her, Maki averted her gaze, her heart skipping a beat. Noticing Maki's reaction, Panda leaned in with a sly grin. Don't tell me Maki's heart is fluttering. I suppose it makes sense. He looks like he's around our age, and he's strong. It's normal for a girl's heart to flutter, right? Think about it. There are only a handful of young, talented sorcerers in the jujitsu world. A wild, independent sorcerer like him wouldn't care about the Zenin clan's drama. You've hit the jackpot, Maki. After delivering his analysis, Panda felt like his logic was bulletproof. He looked at Maki with a serious, encouraging expression. Standing next to him, Toj didn't say a word, but he nodded vigorously. Do you two want to die? She felt slightly embarrassed. Facing such open teasing, Maki clenched her fists and glared at them. That sentence forced Panda and Toj to shut up. They knew Maki wouldn't hesitate to beat them to a pulp. Off to the side, Haruno and Soyo overheard the exchange, and a thoughtful look crept into their eyes. Is it a newborn? On Kai's end, he closed the distance to the cursed spirit fast. Seeing how brainless the cursed spirit was relying on slow, primitive brawling, Kai formed a hypothesis. It had to be newly born. But to reach special grade this quickly, it seemed the collective fear and dread of work far surpassed most other human fears. Lightning style, Chidori sharp spear. Taking advantage of a dodge. Kai sidestepped smoothly, raising one hand. A spear of crackling lightning shot forward like a laser beam, impaling the special grade cursed spirit's body. Boom! Its frame was just a massive target. Its movements were too sluggish. It wasn't close to being a match for Kai. Just then, the ground beneath Kai's feet caved in, shifting and churning. He almost forgot. They were still inside the enemy's domain. Everything inside the domain was under the cursed spirit's control. Watch out! Seeing the ground give way, Maki yelled. She braced herself to jump in and help, but a wave of exhaustion washed over her. She stumbled and nearly collapsed. She was too weak. Come on, Maki. Now is not the time to push yourself. Because they understood Maki's stubbornness, Panda and the others looked exasperated. She was a fiercely independent girl. If they tried to dissuade her too hard, it would backfire. Just leave it to him. Can't you see he's still playing around with it? Hearing Panda and Toj's words, Maki went silent. Especially when she saw Kai dodging the attack with effortless grace, she suppressed her urge to jump into the fray. If she tried to help now, not only would she be useless, but she would become a burden. Seeing her stand down, Panda and Toj let out sighs of relief. If Maki had charged forward out of stubbornness, they wouldn't have known what to do. They didn't have the strength to stop her. Speaking of which, now that the panic had faded, Panda couldn't stop his mouth from running. That guy really is amazing. And since you're both jujitsu sorcerers, Maki, don't you think you guys would make a great couple? Maki didn't bother speaking. She just shot him a glare. All right. I'll shut up. Maki's glares were getting scarier. Having no option, Panda threw his paws up in surrender. Shortly after, his gaze fell on Haruno and Soyo. Realizing something, Panda smiled and waddled over to them. By the way, you two came here with him, right? Do you happen to know his name? They hadn't expected the panda to strike up a conversation with them. Haruno hesitated for a second before telling him. After all, it was just a name. It shouldn't be a big deal. Besides, she barely knew anything about Kai anyway. It was only today that she discovered this side of him. She didn't know a single one of his secrets, so what could she reveal? Tempest kick. Kai leapt high into the air. He snapped his leg forward in a fierce kick. A crescent-shaped blade of compressed air shot out, flying toward the special grade cursed spirit. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon. com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 103, 103, Non-Sorcerers are non-1349 words next target, 400 horsepower. Tempest Kick was one of the Rokushiki techniques from the One Piece world. The devastating power cleanly sliced the upper half of the special-grade cursed spirit right in two. Kai called out, "Spider-Woman." The moment the words left his mouth, several strands of hair shot forward. They seemed infinitely long, rapidly winding around the special-grade cursed spirit before snapping tight to bind it completely. At the same time, Sadako materialized alongside the Spider-Woman, locking her sights onto the target. "Is that?" Panda gasped, instantly losing any interest in chatting with Haruno and the others. He stared at the scene in shock. Cursed spirit manipulation. No wonder, Panda muttered. I was wondering how he had those crazy variety of abilities. It's cursed spirit manipulation. He has to be the new special grade sorcerer that just popped up in the jujitsu world recently. Makes sense. They were confused at first, but seeing cursed spirit manipulation and hearing the name Kai finally jogged their memories. The jujitsu world had recently gone from having 3 special grade sorcerers to 4. After all, Yuta Okatsu hadn't enrolled in Jujutsu High yet. Otherwise, there would be 5. Knowing that cursed spirit manipulation could extract the innate techniques of consumed spirits, Kai wielding a massive arsenal of random abilities wasn't surprising in the least. Cursed spirit manipulation. What is that? Haruno asked. Their earlier chat had thawed the tension between them, so she felt comfortable enough to probe. She still knew far too little about jujitsu sorcerers. Maki gave Haruno a passing glance, but didn't say a word. She looked like she couldn't be bothered to explain. Haruno had dealt with prickly people like her before, so she didn't push it. Instead, she turned to the much friendlier Panda. Panda hesitated. It wasn't exactly a secret, he just didn't know how to explain it to a bunch of normal humans. Simply put, most jujitsu sorcerers awaken a specific innate technique. But not always, Panda explained. It was a game of chance. Not every sorcerer awakened a technique. Cursed spirit manipulation is a powerful technique that allows the user to unconditionally subjugate and control cursed spirits. Theoretically, there is no limit to the number of spirits they can absorb. No limit. The rest of it was a bit confusing, but Haruno understood exactly what no limit meant. Given enough time, Kai would inevitably become the most terrifying existence in the jujitsu world. Yep, no limit. Panda nodded, catching her drift. Cursed spirit manipulation was undeniably strong, but Jujutsu High still had the strongest modern sorcerer, Satoru Gojo. They weren't about to lose sleep over it. Is there any chance for us to become jujitsu sorcerers? Haruno couldn't resist asking the burning question. Having witnessed the supernatural, no one would turn down that kind of power. Even Soyo Nagasaki looked over, eagerly waiting for the answer. Maki was the first to react. She let out a scoff, sweeping a dismissive glance over Haruno and Soyo before turning her attention back to the battlefield. She didn't say a word, but her silence spoke volumes. Isn't that a bit rude? Haruno snapped. Even knowing Maki was a sorcerer, being looked down on like that rubbed her the wrong way. Hey now, don't take it personally. Panda quickly stepped in to defuse the tension. He was genuinely worried Maki might just punch the 2 girls to death. Give it up, Maki said bluntly. Coming from the Zenin clan, she didn't have much patience for average people. It was just her personality, she was cold to everyone. Normal humans can never become jujitsu sorcerers. It's a power born from bloodlines. Bloodlines? Haruno's lingering annoyance vanished instantly. In Japan, the moment someone mentioned bloodlines, everyone knew exactly what it meant. You either had it at birth, or you didn't. Is there really zero chance? Haruno asked, refusing to give up just yet. Panda shrugged, stating it casually. He had heard this question plenty of times before. Normal people don't have the innate talent for cursed energy. You can't become a sorcerer. Haruno and Soyo fell into a disappointed silence. Though, even if you don't have a chance, who's to say your kids won't? Panda quipped. At that, Haruno and Soyo simultaneously looked over at Kai. If the power came from bloodlines, it could definitely be passed down, couldn't it? That's enough. Meanwhile, Kai's battle was wrapping up. The Spider-Woman was just a hair away from reaching special grade. Paired with Sadako, taking down a newly born special grade was a total breeze. Hold back a bit. Don't kill it. I still need to eat it. Seeing the special grade cursed spirit on the verge of exploding under their combined assault, Kai called out lazily. The Spider-Woman and Sadako obediently backed off. Kai walked right up to the mangled spirit, raised his hand, and condensed it into a pitch-black cursed spirit orb before tossing it into his mouth. Much better. The rush of growing stronger was intoxicating. He just added another special grade to his arsenal. Witnessing this confirmed it for Maki and the others. Kai's technique was definitely cursed spirit manipulation. Kai, right? You're really something. Looks like the jujitsu world has another monster genius on its hands. Maki looked at him with genuine respect. Thanks for saving us back there. With the cursed spirit consumed, the domain shattered. The environment reverted to the dark, abandoned construction site. Only this time, the sinister, chilling aura was gone. It was nothing. You're Maki Zenin, right? Satoru Gojo mentioned you. Out of everyone here, Kai was most familiar with Maki. The second generation's heavenly restriction tyrant. Just call me Maki. She hated hearing the name, Zenin, coming from anyone's mouth. Kai knew this, so he didn't press the issue. I'm Panda. Panda introduced himself cheerfully before gesturing to the guy beside him. This is Toji Inumaki. He doesn't talk much because of his innate technique, but he's actually a real softie. Hearing Panda praise him like that, Toji scratched his head awkwardly and offered Kai a polite nod. Cursed speech, right? Kai glanced at Toji. It was a shame cursed spirit manipulation couldn't consume sorcerers or extract their techniques. Otherwise, Kai would have loved to get his hands on cursed speech. Casting a technique just by speaking. It was a pity Toji hadn't mastered it yet. He couldn't control it properly, which was why he couldn't speak normally. Plus, cursed speech carried a heavy backlash. Every time he used it, Toji suffered physical damage. If I were the one using it, I could push that technique to its absolute limits. Toji suddenly flinched. For no apparent reason, a bone-chilling dread washed over him, as if he had just been targeted by a predator. But looking at Kai's neutral expression, nothing seemed amiss. Must be my imagination. All right, it's getting late. You guys should head back and rest. Seeing how battered Maki and her team looked, Kai wrapped things up. Let's exchange numbers, Maki said, suddenly pulling out her phone. I owe you one for tonight. I'll pay it back. She sounded dead serious. Seeing Maki actually ask for a guy's number, Panda almost let out a teasing hoot. But as if anticipating it, Maki shot him a lethal glare before he could even open his mouth. Panda choked back his noise and obediently lowered his head. Kai didn't turn her down. There was no real reason to refuse anyway. After successfully swapping numbers, a faint smile tugged at the corner of Maki's lips. Her gaze swept over Haruno and Soyo standing next to him. These two aren't your friends, are they? She asked pointedly. What, did you inherit the Zenin clan's, non-sorcerers are non-humans mindset? Reading Maki's thoughts, Kai fired back with an amused tone. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 104, 104, The Arrogant Zenin Clan. 1416 words. Next target, 600 horsepower. Ever since its founding, the Zenin clan had passed down its own strict set of rules. Those who are not Zenin are not sorcerers. Those who are not sorcerers are not human. Those few simple words were enough to illustrate the clan's sheer arrogance. To be fair, the Zenin clan's 10 Shadows technique was top tier. But as more powerful techniques emerged over time and considering the 10 Shadows wasn't exactly easy to awaken, it became less of an absolute threat. A user might only appear once every few hundred years. Just like the Gojo clan's 6 eyes, it was a matter of pure luck, not something you could just demand. Because of this, hardly anyone cared about the not Zenin, not a sorcerer part anymore. However, the phrase, "those who are not sorcerers are not human," gradually spread throughout the jujitsu world. After all, once many sorcerers awakened their powers, they naturally developed a superiority complex, treating average humans as lesser beings. Even though jujitsu regulations strictly forbade sorcerers from attacking regular people on a whim, that bone-deep arrogance wasn't something easily erased. Because Maki Zenin possessed low cursed energy and hadn't awakened any innate technique, she had always been looked down upon and ostracized by her clan since childhood. But she still grew up in that environment. It wasn't surprising that she might have absorbed some of that toxic mindset. Whatever happens with the Zenin clan has nothing to do with me. Maki snapped. Whenever the topic involved her clan, she instantly lost all desire to chat. She had already gotten Kai's number anyway. Her gaze swept over Haruno Yukinoshita and Soyo Nagasaki. Without sparing them a second glance, she turned and walked away. Her attitude was practically bordering on blatant dismissal. Even if Soyo and Haruno were oblivious, they could still read the room. Maki's look was a blatant display of looking down on them. Just because they weren't jujitsu sorcerers. Obviously, having just stumbled into this hidden world, they hadn't grasped the massive chasm separating normal humans from sorcerers. "Let's grab food sometime if we get the chance," Panda called out with a grin, waving at Kai before leaving. Standing next to him, Toj smiled shyly and gave Kai a polite nod. Kai let out a lazy yawn, stretching his stiff muscles. All things considered, today's haul wasn't half bad. "It's getting late. We should head back," Kai said, taking the lead. Haruno and Soyo didn't hesitate, quickly scurrying after him. After all, even if Kai had already exorcised the cursed spirit, nobody in their right mind wanted to hang around an abandoned construction site in the dead of night. Haruno spoke up once they were safely back in the car. After hesitating for a moment, she finally voiced the question gnawing at her. What exactly does "those who are not sorcerers are not human" mean? Clearly, Haruno had pieced some things together. Soyo blinked in surprise. If Haruno hadn't brought it up, she probably would have forgotten about it. Kai raised an eyebrow. Meeting Haruno's intense gaze, he let out a soft laugh. "It means exactly what it sounds like." Exactly what it sounds like. Having watched the anime, Kai obviously knew how the majority of jujitsu sorcerers viewed average people. To most sorcerers, normal people aren't human. They're just monkeys. How could that be? Haruno couldn't wrap her head around it. Even if sorcerers wielded supernatural power, regular humans still made up the vast majority of the world's population. "Do you know how cursed spirits are born?" Kai threw out a question she wasn't expecting. Cursed spirits. She remembered Kai giving a brief explanation earlier. He mentioned they were primarily born from human fear and negative emotions. It sounded like a total fairy tale, but having seen a cursed spirit with her own eyes, even a fairy tale had to be the truth now. Cursed spirits do come from fear, but specifically, they stem from the fear of humans, Kai explained. A sorcerer's negative emotions just generate more cursed energy for them to use. But a normal person's negative emotions leak out and breed cursed spirits. The more negativity, the more cursed spirits. Which means... Kai paused. As long as humans exist, cursed spirits can never be wiped out. Finding someone who didn't harbor a single drop of negativity in their heart was a pipe dream. It was just unrealistic. Processing that massive lore dump left Haruno reeling for a second. But as the implications clicked into place, her eyes slowly widened in horror. "It's exactly what you're thinking," Kai said with a smile, reading her reaction perfectly. "Not every sorcerer is an untouchable powerhouse. Take Maki and her team, for example. If I hadn't shown up, they might actually be dead right now. Sorcerers dying in combat against cursed spirits wasn't rare. Weak sorcerers made up the bulk of the jujitsu world after all. When those sorcerers die, their friends, family, and lovers mourn them. Some direct their hatred at the cursed spirits, but others start hating humans instead. They realize that normal people are the ones constantly churning out these monsters, causing all the bloodshed. As a result, the number of sorcerers harboring deep hostility toward non-sorcerers has only grown over the years. Suguru Geto was the poster child for this mindset. He used to treat protecting non-sorcerers as his ironclad moral code. But after a few traumatic incidents, his worldview twisted entirely. He became convinced that the mere existence of humans was the root cause of every tragedy. Now a rogue curse user, Geto's sole ambition was to eradicate all the monkeys, the non-sorcerers. By wiping them out, he aimed to eliminate cursed spirits at the source. How could they? Isn't that just too? Haruno was stunned that such a radical ideology existed. Too much of a stretch. Kai finished her sentence for her. Isn't that just how the world works? You come from the wealthy Yukinoshita family. Do you guys honestly treat regular, working-class people as your equals and friends? Haruno lost her voice. Putting up a front right now was pointless. It was the truth. As someone raised in high society, she didn't necessarily discriminate against normal people, but deep down, she couldn't view them as peers. They were just strangers. See my point? Kai shrugged, stating it matter-of-factly. Imagine a social class that sits even higher than the richest elites. Makes it easy to grasp, doesn't it? But you don't need to lose sleep over it. The jujitsu world has its own set of laws. They don't just go around slaughtering average people on a whim. Of course, that was assuming you didn't cross paths with a truly unhinged curse user. I never wanted to understand it like that. Haruno shot him a resentful glare. But she knew this twisted ideology was just the grim reality for most sorcerers. It had nothing to do with Kai. She couldn't pin the blame on him. Besides, if Kai really viewed non-sorcerers as monkeys, she never would have been able to get this close to him in the first place. If Mother found out that even after cementing the Yukinoshita family's legacy in Tokyo, she's still just a monkey in their eyes, I wonder how she'd react. Suddenly, Haruno felt a pang of regret. If only her mother had been here tonight. She would have paid good money to see the look on her mother's face. Kai had to admit, Haruno was quite the dutiful daughter. Unlike Haruno, Soyo Nagasaki sat quietly in the back seat. She had been listening to Kai and Haruno's conversation the entire time, but hadn't uttered a single peep. She was as quiet as a total outsider. Don't you have anything to add? Noticing Soyo's silence, Haruno couldn't help but ask. She felt like she was the only one freaking out over this existential crisis while the girl in the back just chilled. Add what? The fact that we're viewed as monkeys. Soyo's tone lacked its usual venom. Instead, she sounded eerily flat. It doesn't matter. Soyo Nagasaki was someone terrified of loneliness. Raised in a single-parent household with a mother who constantly worked overtime, Soyo spent most of her life entirely alone. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 105, 105, bonus 1349 words. Next target, 600 horsepower. That was why, when Sakiko Tagawa invited Soyo Nagasaki to join the band, Soyo agreed without a second thought. She loved the feeling of being with everyone. It gave her a sense of warmth, like a real family. That was why she couldn't accept it when the band broke up. She desperately wanted to get them back together. She kept pestering Sakiko. At that moment, Soyo turned her head and looked at Kai in the passenger seat. So Sakiko actually ran into a cursed spirit like this too, right? Soyo felt she had just uncovered the truth. Does Sakiko know about the jujitsu world? She does know about that. Kai nodded, having no idea what was running through Soyo's head. I knew it. Getting that confirmation only cemented Soyo's theory. Sakiko must have found out how dangerous the jujitsu world is. She was worried I'd get dragged into it, so she pushed me away. I get it now. That explains everything. As she said this, her smile grew brighter. She had practically scripted an entire drama in her head. Sakiko still cared about her. All those cold words from before, they were just her way of keeping Soyo safe from the jujitsu world. Haruno blinked in bewilderment as she watched Soyo smile like a fool, lost in her own delusions. She shot Kai a look. What's wrong with her? Even without words, Kai read her gaze perfectly. Who knows? Kai shot back a look and shrugged. He had to admit, he sometimes underestimated just how wild a teenage girl's imagination could be. He hadn't even said anything, yet she managed to invent an entire narrative. The best part? She looked pretty damn proud of herself. As if I'd buy that. Seeing him play dumb, Haruno grumbled internally. He was definitely hiding something. Then again, she didn't exactly have the right to interrogate him. I'm heading back. Soon enough, Haruno pulled the car up to Soyo's apartment building. Since she lived closer, they dropped her off first. Stepping out of the car, Soyo wore a warm, gentle smile, a stark contrast to the terrified girl from earlier. Kaikuin, please tell Sakiko that I understand her true feelings now. Thank you for protecting her all this time. But I want her to know that even if it's dangerous, I'm willing to face it alongside her. After delivering that solemn speech, she turned and walked up the stairs. She clearly believed that Kai and Sakiko's relationship wasn't what it seemed. It was just a cover story to keep Soyo away. Kai was a powerful jujitsu sorcerer. Sakiko must have run into trouble, and he was just sticking around to protect her. That had to be it. Fueled by that thought, Soyo's steps grew light and bouncy as she headed up to her apartment. What is? Watching Soyo leave, Haruno struggled to find the right words. Her expression was a mix of confusion and exasperation. Crazy, right? Kai asked. You said it, not me. Haruno sighed, looking helpless. Calling a girl crazy felt a bit rude. Luckily, Kai stepped up and said it for her. Kai just shrugged, brushing it off. What exactly did she run into? Haruno was naturally curious. Whenever she stumbled onto a mystery, she wanted to dig up the roots. It's her private business. Do you really think it's appropriate for me to tell you? Kai shot her a flat look, making it clear he wasn't going to explain a thing. It drove her crazy to be this close to a secret, and not get the answers. Given Kai's actual identity, she couldn't just keep messing around. Even if he didn't mind, she had to draw a line somewhere. So what now? That little brat isn't here to interrupt us anymore. Want to pick up where we left off? Haruno asked. Pick up where we left off. Kai looked at her in surprise before cracking a smile. Aren't you worried about losing more than you bargained for? Either way, I don't lose out, do I? Meeting his gaze, Haruno's eyes sparked with eager anticipation. Setting his sorcerer status aside, Kai was great to look at. He was undeniably hot. In truth, Haruno had her own hidden motives. The way she saw it, Yukino was only getting close to Kai because he was a jujitsu sorcerer. Yukino must have figured out the perks of the jujitsu world, and wanted to secure his power for the family by tying herself to him. This was Japan. Arranged marriages and securing alliances through relationships were standard practice. But she was the older sister. If she let Yukino handle the heavy lifting, what good was she? If Yukino could make that kind of sacrifice, there was no reason Haruno couldn't do it herself. There was no reason to say no. She was taking the initiative. If Kai acted all shy and hesitant now, he'd just look like a coward. Plus, Haruno was gorgeous. Let's go. Haruno smiled, thrilled that he agreed. For a split second, she had been terrified he might reject her. That would have been mortifying. Should we grab a drink first? After parking the car, Haruno pointed to a nearby izakaya. She talked a big game earlier. But now that it was actually happening, her nerves were kicking in. Don't tell me you're getting cold feet. Kai teased. I'm just trying to help you relax. I don't want you getting so nervous that you can't even find the right spot. Admitting she was scared right now would ruin her pride. Tossing out that quick excuse, Haruno marched straight toward the hotel entrance. Kai followed right behind her, laughing it off. He didn't mind her bluffing. After all, they were about to find out exactly who couldn't find the right spot. Wait a second. Sure enough, Haruno's courage crumbled. Seriously, wait. Kai wasn't the type to back down once things got started. To him, Haruno's desperate pleas just sounded like foreplay. Haruno finally got to experience it firsthand. The sheer difference between a jujitsu sorcerer and an ordinary human. His stamina alone was on a completely different level. You animal. Thoroughly exhausted, Haruno muttered before passing out as Kai carried her toward the bathroom. By the time she woke up, it was already the next morning. Yawn, Haruno stretched and slowly sat up in bed. After a deep, restful sleep following last night's exhaustion, she felt great. Maybe it was because she had been stressed for so long and finally got to release it all. That wasn't bad at all. Even though it was a bit much to handle, she was very satisfied with Kai's stamina. But when she looked around and didn't see Kai anywhere, a wave of melancholy hit her. That jerk. He actually just left. She knew she wasn't going to be his official girlfriend. Still, he was her first. It was natural to feel a little attached. Just then Sakiko. Yeah, something came up. I'll be home tonight, don't worry. Kai walked into the room, talking on his phone. Haruno instinctively pulled the blanket up, but after realizing it was him, she rolled her eyes and let it drop. He had already seen everything anyway. There was no point in hiding. Girlfriend checking in. She leaned on her side, shooting him a sultry look. Pretty much. Kai didn't look guilty at all as he set some breakfast down in front of her. I thought you. Haruno started to say she thought he had left her. Right at that moment, Kai's phone started ringing again. He pressed a finger to his lips, signaling her to stay quiet, and answered the call. She didn't know who it was, but she could clearly hear a girl's voice on the other end. This guy. He really is a massive player. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 106, 106, Soyo Nagasaki, Sakiko. I want to face this with you. 1241 words. Next target, 600 horsepower. After last night, Haruno Yukinoshita was sure of one thing: Kai was definitely a player. There was no way he could be that skilled otherwise. Still, after seeing his stamina for herself, she thought maybe being a player wasn't so bad. Honestly, she didn't stand a chance against him one-on-one. She snapped back to reality and noticed Kai was still on the phone. A mischievous idea came to her, and her eyes lit up. With a sly giggle, she slid over and pressed herself against him. Kai noticed right away. He looked down and met Haruno's mischievous gaze. Ari, on the other end of the line, asked curiously when he suddenly went quiet. It's nothing, I just got distracted for a second. Don't worry, I'll come by soon. Aerie had called to invite him over to her house, using the excuse of treating him to a meal. All right then. Aerie didn't suspect anything. When he agreed, she couldn't help but smile, though she tried to hide it. She put on a serious voice. Don't get the wrong idea. My mom's the one who invited you. I'm just passing along the message. Classic tsundere. I was actually missing you, our mom too. Kai intentionally dragged out the pause. When he said he missed her, Aerie's heart skipped a beat. But as soon as she heard the rest, she rolled her eyes. She didn't suspect anything weird between her mother and Kai. As far as she was concerned, he was just teasing her. I am ignoring you. She didn't notice her voice had turned soft and a little whiny, so different from her usual sharp tsundere style. Meanwhile, Haruno was visibly disappointed. Kai hadn't panicked at all. In fact, he handled the interruption flawlessly. She missed out on seeing a fun reaction. Just as she tried to pull back, Kai placed a hand on her head, stopping her in her tracks. Are you kidding? You started this and now you think you can just leave. She lightly smacked his arm in protest, but ultimately gave in, and didn't pull away. Finally, he hung up the phone. Kai looked back down at Haruno. His eyes held a specific, burning intent. Haruno wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what that look meant. Hold on, don't get crazy. I'm still sore. A wave of worry hit her. If Kai just pushed forward regardless of her pain, it meant she was nothing more than a disposable tool to him. After all, he was her first. It was impossible for her not to care about how he treated her. I'm not the kind of guy who doesn't know how to treat a woman. Hearing that, Haruno let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness. At least he cared a little bit. But when she saw he wasn't stopping, she looked up in surprise. Didn't you just say you knew how to treat a woman? Don't forget, I'm a jujitsu sorcerer. What did being a sorcerer have to do with anything? She figured it out a second later. As Kai raised his hand, Haruno felt the deep, lingering soreness in her body vanish completely. She felt lighter than air. What is this? Could jujitsu sorcerers really do things like this? They even had healing powers. Kai's reverse curse technique came straight from the system. Just like Shoko Yeri, he could output positive energy to heal others. Until now, he hadn't actually used it to heal anyone but himself. Haruno was officially his first patient. Realizing what he was up to, Haruno tried to move away. But alas, it was no use. At the Sawamura house, Aerie ended the call and rolled around on her bed, grinning. Only when she was alone did she drop her tsundere act. After celebrating, she bounced downstairs. Someone's in a good mood, Sayuri Sawamura teased from the living room, watching her daughter hum a cheerful tune as she came down the stairs. I take it Kaikuin accepted your invitation. I'm not happy because of that, she insisted, acting like she didn't care. Even if she was thrilled inside, she'd never say it out loud. Still at tsundere, as always. Sayuri knew her daughter too well. She just shook her head and let the denial slide. That annoying jerk even said he was only coming because he missed you, Mom. I think he's the real tsundere. Aerie knew she had her flaws, but old habits die hard. Remembering what Kai said, she gave a smug little humph. Maybe he was the tsundere after all. Missed me? Sayuri paused, surprised to hear that. A strange, deep emotion shimmered in her eyes as a thought crossed her mind. Oh, don't overthink it, Mom. Worried her mom might be offended, Aerie quickly waved her hands. He was just joking. I mean, look at your age and his. Sayuri's smile faded. She stared at her smug daughter, her face going blank. By the way, the driver said the car broke down this morning. Looks like you'll have to walk to school today, Aerie. Aerie panicked. Why didn't you tell me earlier? She realized she'd be late if she left now. She'd only taken her time because she thought the driver was waiting. I'm going to be late. She grabbed her bento box and dashed out of the house. Watching Eri rush out, Sayuri smiled again and hummed in satisfaction. Evidently, no matter how old a woman gets, she always cares about her age even if the one insulting it is her own daughter. It wasn't like Eri had never walked to school before, so Sayuri wasn't worried in the slightest. Sakiko, I know everything. Sitting in her classroom, Sakiko Tagawa stared at Soyo Nagasaki's text. She was full of questions. Know what? But since Soyo's recent messages had been so over the top, Sakiko decided to ignore them. Even though she was curious, she got ready to put her phone away. I know everything about Kaikuen. He's a jujitsu sorcerer, right? Seeing that, Sakiko couldn't hold back anymore. On the other end, getting Sakiko's reply made Soyo grin with confidence. I knew it. Sakiko had ignored her other texts, but replied to this one. Soyo was sure Sakiko knew how dangerous sorcerers were, and was keeping her distance to protect her. The more Soyo thought about it, the happier she felt. Yes, I know everything. Sakiko, I can face this with you. Sakiko. Face what together? I know Kaikuen is very powerful, but I want you to know, Sakiko, no matter what happens, I can face it with you. To Soyo, Kai was ridiculously strong. But if he still had to stay close to Sakiko to protect her, the cursed spirit after Sakiko must be really dangerous. The thought that Sakiko was still in danger made Soyo even more determined. However, to Sakiko, those words carried an entirely different meaning. After all, Sakiko had experienced Kai's power firsthand. No matter how hard she tried on those long nights, she was no match for him. Still, she wanted to be sure she wasn't misunderstanding. Do you really know how powerful Kai is? Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 107, 107, Kakaratobe's Secret Meetup. 1,467 words. Next target, 200 horsepower. Of course. Thinking Sakiko didn't believe her, Soyo fired off several more messages to prove her point. I saw it with my own eyes. I was right there. Kaikuen really is amazing. Saw it with her own eyes. Right there on the scene. That meant Soyo and Kai had also. Even though she had already braced herself for things like this, Soyo was her former friend. For a moment, Sakiko felt a complex swirl of emotions. She never expected Kai and Soyo to have crossed that line too. Let me help you, Sakiko. Just as she zoned out, another text from Soyo popped up on the screen. How is she supposed to help with that? It's not like we can do it together, right? Actually, maybe we can. After all, she had already slept with Kai, and apparently, so had Soyo. Besides, Sakiko knew perfectly well she couldn't handle him alone. She could always tell that Kai wasn't fully satisfied afterward. To Sakiko, failing to satisfy her boyfriend felt like a massive dereliction of duty. If it were some random stranger, Sakiko probably couldn't accept it. But Soyo was different. She was a close friend. I understand. I'll find a chance for us to try. After a long silence, Sakiko sent a reply, choosing not to reject the offer. Over on the other end, Soyo practically jumped for joy the second she got the text. Her guess was spot on. Sakiko had finally, truly accepted her again. Don't worry, Sakiko. I will definitely stay by your side. I'll be with you forever. That sounds a bit weird. Stay by her side. Wasn't she supposed to be staying by Kai's side? Plus, Soyo seemed a little too eager. It looked like Soyo was just as hopelessly smitten with Kai as she was. It left Sakiko feeling conflicted but also validated. Kai was an outstanding guy. It was only natural for other girls to fall for him. You don't need to stay by my side. Staying by Kai's side is enough. After a moment of thought, Sakiko shot back a reply. Stay by Kai's side. But then again, Kai was the jujitsu sorcerer, he was the one who had to actually solve Sakiko's problem. Maybe that was what she meant. Soyo didn't argue and typed back a serious response. Don't worry, I understand. That answer confirmed it for Sakiko. Soyo and Kai definitely had something going on. She wouldn't have said that otherwise. Pocketing her phone, Sakiko's eyes drifted in thought. Looks like I need to find the right timing for this. Realizing that doing this would mean Kai spending more time at her place, Sakiko felt her mood brighten considerably. Kai had no idea what was happening. Two girls with wild imaginations had just collided, and were currently scheming to give him a massive surprise. After leaving Haruno's place, Kai headed straight to school. Inside the classroom, Yumiko Miura was the first to stand up and wave him over. You're late today. I thought you were calling in sick. Something came up and delayed me. Kai brushed it off casually, sliding into his seat next to Yui Yokohama. A happy smile lit up Yui's face the moment she saw him. She was long past the phase where she would blush at the slightest contact. She leaned into him naturally, just wanting to be a bit closer. You two are as lovey-dovey as ever. Yumiko clicked her tongue, her tone dripping with suggestive teasing. The remark caught Yui off guard. She lowered her head in embarrassment. Kai, on the other hand, just smiled and shot back directly at Yumiko. Of course we are. Yui is my girlfriend. If I'm not lovey-dovey with her, who else would I be with? What about me? Yumiko challenged, refusing to back down. There's an empty seat right next to me. If you've got the guts, come sit. Kai shrugged, tilting his head toward the open desk beside him. He looked like he was practically daring her to do it. Who are you looking down on? Catching his drift, Yumiko scoffed with feigned annoyance. She grabbed her chair, dragged it over, and plunked herself down right next to him, deliberately leaning in close. Don't get the wrong idea, Yui. I just can't stand it when people challenge me. Noticing Yui staring, Yumiko quickly waved a hand to explain, pinning all the blame entirely on Kai. I know. Yui knew Yumiko's fiery temper well enough. She definitely wasn't the type to back down from a dare. Still, seeing Yumiko sitting so close to Kai sparked a strange, uneasy feeling in Yui's chest. Something felt off about this. Was it just her imagination? Watching the scene unfold, Hina Ebina quietly lowered her head from her seat in the back. Their close-knit trio consisted of 3 girls. Now 2 of them were glued to Kai's sides, leaving her as the odd one out. If she didn't make a move, she'd practically be an outcast. What was she even supposed to do? Hina instinctively glanced up at Kai, then immediately ducked her head back down. Honestly, when it came to looks alone, Kai was top tier. Very few girls could resist a guy like that. However, Hina was a massive fujoshi, and the idea of sharing a guy with her best friends felt way too weird. For now, at least, Hina lacked the courage to cross that line. She decided to just wait and see how things played out. Noticing that Yui's slight unease quickly faded away, Yumiko stealthily shot Kai a quick wink. It was obvious. She was trying to slowly acclimate Yui to the dynamic of the 3 of them hanging out together, making the eventual truth easier to swallow. Catching her wink, Kai just smirked. Hayato Hayama. Anyone paying attention could easily read the room. Hayama, for instance. Watching Yumiko happily pressing herself against Kai, Hayama couldn't help but let out a heavy sigh. Between dealing with Kakeru Tobe's recent drama, Hayama simply hadn't had the energy to intervene elsewhere. Now that he finally had a moment to breathe, one look at Yumiko's demeanor told him that whatever he said wouldn't make a difference anyway. He, right on cue, Tobe was clutching his phone, giggling like an absolute fool. He kept muttering his online girlfriend's name like a mantra. Hayama, who was already exhausted, felt a fresh wave of migraines coming on. Tobe, if you really like her that much, you should go meet her in person. Since he couldn't talk sense into the guy, he needed to get Tobe to see reality with his own eyes. I can't. Tobe immediately shut the idea down, using the exact same excuse as before. He claimed she wasn't ready yet, and showing up unannounced would be rude. What if she broke up with him over it? But to Hayama, the whole thing was absurd. You haven't even met face to face. What kind of relationship is that? What breakup is there to even worry about? Then how about we go take a look in secret? Aren't you at least a little curious about what your girlfriend looks like? This time, Hayama didn't push aggressively. He opted for a softer, more persuasive approach. It worked. Hearing that, Tobe clearly hesitated. Deep down, he desperately wanted to know what the girl he was dating actually looked like. But what if? He was still wavering. Hayama patted Tobe on the shoulder, his expression dead serious. There is no what if. We're just taking a quick peek in secret. Didn't you say she hasn't even seen a picture of you yet? Tobe nodded instinctively. An online romance where neither side had even seen a photo. It truly left people speechless. If that's the case, even if she sees you, she won't know who you are, Hayama assured him. Don't worry. I'll go with you. We'll just take a look from a distance. She'll never notice. As a friend, Hayama was stepping up and taking full responsibility for the situation. Right on cue, Yamato and Uka, the group's resident hype men, leaned in. He's right. We'll all go. If anything goes south, we can cover for you. Exactly, Tobe. We've got your back. Being part of the popular clique, they couldn't just sit on the sidelines and watch. Besides, they were genuinely curious to see who Tobe's mysterious online girlfriend actually was. Since the opportunity presented itself, they were definitely going. Meeting the encouraging gazes of his friends, Tobe finally gave a firm nod. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-patreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 108, 108. The Domineering Yukinoshita Matriarch. 1363 words. Next target, 200 horsepower. Unlike her bitter, exhausted state from the past few weeks, Haruno Yukinoshita actually hummed a cheerful little tune as she walked. She was in a fantastic mood. All the built-up tension in her chest had vanished completely. She finally understood why some people got so hooked on this kind of thing. It felt amazing. Why hadn't she met this man sooner? Sorry, Yukino. You can't handle a man like this. Leave him to your big sister. With that thought, Haruno drove back to her family home. A sudden voice froze Haruno right in her tracks. She couldn't help it was a fear ingrained deep in her soul. Mother. She turned and saw her mother, the current head of the Yukinoshita family, Fumino Yukinoshita, sitting dead center in the living room. Her father sat quietly off to the side. Note: Haruno's mother doesn't have an official name. I searched through the entire anime and novel but found nothing. For now, we'll call her Fumino. While Japan certainly had its fair share of traditional patriarchs, Haruno's father had married into the Yukinoshita family. Fumino called all the shots. The so-called man of the house was basically just a decoration. Fumino didn't say a word. She just gave Haruno a calculating once-over. It was rare to see her daughter in such a good mood. Fumino had obviously noticed her humming as she walked in. Even though she maintained a strict, cold facade most of the time, she still cared about her daughter. She didn't ask why Haruno was so happy. Instead, she frowned. Why aren't you at the office right now? Ahem, things were slow, so I headed back early, Haruno replied. Things were slow. As the family head, Fumino knew exactly how swamped the company was right now. Haruno wasn't the only one drowning in work, Fumino was too. They barely got any time to breathe. Yet here Haruno was, claiming there was nothing to do. It's the truth. After a second of thought, Haruno decided against mentioning jujitsu sorcerers. She chose her words carefully. That plot of land in Tokyo is clear now. We just need to wait a bit, and we can resume construction. Fumino's eyes lit up. She stared at her daughter in surprise. It's clear. Are you sure about this? Fumino had been losing sleep over that land for ages, pulling countless strings just to secure it. But every time they tried to resume work, another worker would suffer a bizarre accident. Fumino had even hired priests from local shrines, proving she suspected something supernatural was at play. Unfortunately, none of it worked. And now Haruno was standing here telling her the problem was solved. It's the truth. I guarantee it, Haruno insisted. What makes you so sure? There was that domineering tone again. Haruno was momentarily at a loss for words. After all, she didn't exactly have hard evidence to back up her claim. She couldn't just tell her mother the gritty details of what she witnessed last night. I just know. Stop asking, Mother. You'll see for yourself once construction restarts. Left with no other option, Haruno stubbornly held her mother's gaze. The problem was solved. That was all that mattered. As for the rest, it was obvious Haruno had zero intention of explaining. It had been a long time since her daughter dared to speak to her with such defiance. Haruno was clearly hiding a secret, but what could it possibly be? She couldn't figure it out. Still, Fumino chose to trust her daughter. In that case, I'll find the right time to resume construction, Fumino declared. For her, that plot of land was the future of the Yukinoshita family. She wasn't going to give up if there was even a sliver of hope. Haruno let out a quiet breath of relief. Her mother wasn't going to interrogate her further. Oh right. Haruno suddenly remembered something. Mother, about that. What is it? Fumino frowned, annoyed by her daughter's sudden hesitation. Thinking back to what she learned last night, Haruno decided to just say it. When construction resumes, let's stop overworking the crew. Can't we just stick to regular hours with no forced overtime, like before? Fumino had expected something serious. She never anticipated a request like this. Out of the question, Fumino rejected the idea without a second thought. Haruno didn't understand. She didn't think scaling back hours would be a huge deal. She definitely didn't expect an instant refusal. Fumino replied with cold logic. Do you realize what that land represents for this family? The faster we finish that project, the sooner the Yukinoshita family establishes a real foothold in Tokyo. Besides, I force them to work overtime, yes, but I have never skimped on their overtime pay or benefits. Fumino wasn't some cartoonishly evil capitalist. She didn't expect people to work for free. The labor was intense, but she always paid top dollar. It's not about the money. Haruno struggled to find the right words. Mother, the only reason the site turned out like that is because you pushed them too hard. Can't we just go back to normal? Haruno, I thought you had finally matured. Annoyed by her daughter's persistence, Fumino raised her voice. The tension in the living room spiked instantly. Watching this unfold, Mr. Yukinoshita offered a nervous, placating smile, trying to defuse the situation. Fumino, don't get angry, Haruno just. Fumino didn't argue. She just shot him a single, withering glare. Sure enough, that was all it took for Mr. Yukinoshita to shut his mouth and sink back into his seat. The practiced routine made it clear this was a common occurrence. Haruno wasn't surprised in the slightest. Her mother was the absolute ruler of this household. Sometimes, her father's status was even lower than hers and Yukino's. I think the one who hasn't grown up is you, Mother. You're the one who doesn't understand a thing. What did you just say? Fumino clearly didn't expect her daughter to snap back with that kind of tone. Yukinoshita warned her softly, terrified she was going to push Fumino over the edge. I'm not wrong. Haruno stubbornly held her ground. She had been terrified of her mother since she was a little girl, but today, a strange surge of courage pushed her to keep talking. You don't even know the real reason why those accidents happened in the first place. You don't understand anything. I'm doing this for the sake of the family. Haruno knew the truth. Based on Kai's explanation, as long as the workers' resentment and exhaustion persisted, another cursed spirit was bound to spawn. If her mother kept pushing them to the brink, the Yukinoshita family was going to pay the price. Fumino frowned deeply, but didn't say a word. She just studied Haruno intently. Does she know something I don't? Fumino was used to ruling with an iron fist, and her harsh words often spilled out by default. But she wasn't an idiot. Seeing Haruno stand her ground like this, she realized something deeper was going on. You can't tell me? Fumino asked. She saw right through me. It made sense. Her mother was brilliant. There was no way she wouldn't notice. Haruno quietly lowered her gaze. I just can't tell you right now. She needed to ask Kai if exposing the existence of cursed spirits was allowed. What if it put her mother in danger? They might bicker constantly, but Haruno actually cared deeply about her mother's safety. I understand. After studying Haruno for another long moment, Fumino withdrew her gaze. I will make the adjustments, she said coolly. The project might take a little longer to finish, but the construction site wasn't going anywhere. As long as they weren't forced into a dead stop like they were right now, finishing a month early or a month late didn't really matter. Haruno looked up in genuine surprise. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 109, 109. I just love the crowd. 1398 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Haruno hadn't expected her mother to cave so easily. She figured they'd be arguing for hours. Do you really think I'm that unreasonable? Fumino asked, noting Haruno's surprised expression. No, of course not. Haruno quickly put on a flattering smile and sidled up next to her mother. You're as kind-hearted as you are beautiful, mother. How could you ever be unreasonable? Fumino let out a soft snort, but she didn't push her daughter away. Deep down, she was still curious about the secret Haruno was hiding. Well, isn't this nice? The most awkward person in the room right now was undoubtedly Mr. Yukinoshita. He had assumed he would need to step in to mend the rift between mother and daughter. Instead, they just ignored him. Fumino and Haruno chatted as if he were invisible. He was the father, yet he felt like a total outsider in his own home. Hearing his voice, Fumino merely shot her husband a passing, dismissive glance. Back in their youth, Fumino actually had some affection for the man. But as time went on, her fierce ambition began to show. She evolved into an iron-willed businesswoman. Her only goal was to elevate the Yukinoshita family to the next level and turn them into a true financial conglomerate. In stark contrast, Mr. Yukinoshita lacked any real drive. Most of the time, he was perfectly content with the status quo. To Fumino, his complacency was practically a sin. She had pulled massive strings just to secure him a position as a local councilman. And what did he do with it? He showed zero initiative to climb the ladder. He was in the exact same spot today as the day he took office. Plenty of his juniors had already been promoted, but Mr. Yukinoshita's rank remained stagnant. Of course, lack of ambition wasn't his only issue, it was also a matter of competence. As a man who married into the family, he simply didn't have the talent for cutthroat politics. Meeting his wife's cold gaze, Mr. Yukinoshita opened his mouth to speak, but Fumino immediately cut him off. If you have nothing to add, go rest. Well then, mother, I'm going to bed. Haruno chimed in without a second thought. Thanks to Kai's reverse curse technique, she wasn't in any physical pain, but she still craved a good night's sleep. After working so much forced overtime, she could finally get some real rest. With that, Haruno headed straight for her room, tossing her father a token greeting on the way out. She didn't even give him a chance to reply. It couldn't be helped. Even though he was her father, their relationship was distant at best. In her memories, he was practically a ghost. There were a few times when she was little that she tried asking him for help. Fumino was a brutally strict mother. When Haruno failed to meet expectations, Fumino disciplined her, ruthlessly scolding her, hitting her, and even withholding meals on a few occasions. But turning to her father was useless. Yukino Shida would just play dumb or pretend he didn't see anything. He never dared to stand up to Fumino. Over time, both Haruno and Yukino lost whatever affection they had for him. They maintained basic surface-level politeness, but they rarely ever talked to him. Once Haruno left, Fumino and Mr. Yukino Shida were the only ones remaining in the living room. Well, a friend invited me to go fishing, so the suffocating atmosphere was too much for him to handle. He stood up, eager to escape. However, the moment he moved, Fumino's voice pinned him down. Is this a colleague? He knew exactly why she was asking. After a moment of hesitation, he honestly shook his head. No, it's an old classmate. You actually know him, Yukino Shida had married into the family because he and Fumino were college classmates. They even shared a desk, which naturally brought them closer back then. He was about to remind her of the man's name, but enough. Fumino snapped before he could finish. How many times do I have to tell you? Cut ties with useless acquaintances. Your priority is networking with your colleagues. How else are you going to advance? Or do you think becoming a local councilman is the finish line? She glared at him. You are a local politician. You're a nobody in Tokyo. Don't you want a seat in the capital? Anyone listening would think she was scolding a child, not speaking to her husband. Yukino Shida could only lower his head and sit in silence, not daring to talk back. Why do we have to go to Tokyo? What's wrong with staying right here? He desperately wanted to say it, but he lacked the courage. He knew Fumino's temper. Voicing that thought would only earn him another vicious lecture about his lack of ambition. After lecturing him for quite a while, Fumino finally stopped. Seeing her husband sitting there like a block of wood, a flash of deep disappointment crossed her eyes. Forget it. I'm going to bed. It wasn't the first time she had given this speech. It was useless. He was never going to change. Realizing that talking was a waste of breath, Fumino let out a slow, tired sigh. She stood up and headed to her room. Long after Fumino disappeared, Mr. Yukino Shida finally let out a heavy breath. He stood up from the floor and numbly walked back to his own bedroom. It was true. Even though they were married, they hadn't slept in the same room for years. He couldn't even remember when they started sleeping in separate rooms. Was it after Yukino was born? Or even earlier? Not that he cared. He actually preferred it this way. Being alone in his room meant he didn't have to worry about getting scolded. It was peaceful. Why do I have to be ambitious? Thinking back to the living room, he felt a crushing wave of frustration. Over the years, his feelings for his wife had mutated into fear. Every time he faced her, his hands and feet went numb. It wasn't a normal reaction for a husband to have toward his wife. Maybe he was just numb to it all, or maybe he knew he had zero power to fight back. With a heavy sigh, he closed his eyes, just wanting to clear his head. If you hate her that much, why don't you just kill her? In the dead silence of the room, a chilling, ethereal voice suddenly echoed. Who's there? The sudden voice made Mr. Yukino Shida freeze. He shot up in bed, looking around defensively. He didn't see anyone. Was he hearing things? Why not kill her? He had just convinced himself it was an illusion when the voice whispered again. This time, as the words sank in, Mr. Yukinoshida's eyes glazed over. His pupils lost focus. The phrase kept echoing relentlessly in his mind. Why not kill her? It really is great having a big family together like this. During lunch break in the service club, Kai suddenly laughed as he looked at the girls gathered around him. Aside from Yukino Yukinoshida and Hidori Goto, Marin Kitagawa and Megumi Kato were also there today. It seemed they had fully recovered from their illness. Counting Kai, there were 5 people in the room, turning the usually quiet service club into a lively hangout. I know, right? Marin, always the outgoing one, agreed without a second thought. Hanging out together is the best. She flashed a bright, infectious smile. Her sunny personality easily lifted the mood in the room. Sitting next to her, Megumi Kato shot Marin a faint, deadpan look. You just like doing group activities in bed. I won't even bother exposing you. But thinking back to their wild session, Megumi couldn't help but lower her head to hide her flush. She had to admit, she kind of enjoyed that feeling too. Oh right. Kai, want to come over to my place to play games after school? Marin asked cheerfully. I found a brand new game. Megumi is coming too. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 110, 110, Kesaku Band, Hidori Goto's Band 1268 words next target, 400 horsepower. Marin Kitagawa's words caught Megumi Kato off guard. She clearly hadn't expected this. What's wrong? Don't you want to play with us, Megumi? Marin asked. You better mean playing video games. However, meeting Marin's eager gaze, Megumi swallowed her refusal. I knew you were the best, Megumi. Marin threw her arms around Megumi with a bright laugh, clearly thrilled that she was into this kind of game. Megumi stiffened at first, but remembering their past antics, she didn't bother struggling. After all, they had already been much closer than this. A simple hug was nothing. What about you two, Yukino, Hidori? Do you want to play too? Marin turned her hopeful gaze toward Yukino Yukinoshida and Hidori Goto. Hidori shook her head shyly. Yukino, on the other hand, looked a bit disappointed. Something came up at home. Maybe next time. If Kai was playing games alone with Marin, Yukino might have been a little worried. But with Megumi tagging along, Yukino didn't think twice about it. After all, it wasn't like 3 people could mess around together. It just went to show that Yukino was still lacking in experience. She had no idea about the joys of a 3-player game. Besides, Yukino wasn't making excuses. She really felt bad about missing out. Hanging out and playing games with friends sounded fun, but she had just gotten a text from her older sister saying she was moving back home for a few days to celebrate some good news. Yukino couldn't turn her down. That's a shame. Marin didn't push the issue. Instead, she flashed an eager grin. But promise me you'll come next time. Yukino nodded with total sincerity, oblivious to the hidden meaning. What about you, Hidori? Marin turned back to the pink-haired girl. Given Bocce's timid personality, it was usually hard for her to say no to anyone. Hidori stammered. Marin felt a pang of regret at losing another player, but her curiosity quickly took over. Do you have other plans, Hidori? Usually, Hidori wouldn't reject an invitation unless she was actually busy. Hidori nodded. She looked embarrassed but also practically vibrating with anticipation. Actually, I joined a band. On the outside, she still looked like a nervous wreck, but her heart was doing backflips. She had finally done it. She finally joined a band. It was exactly like she always dreamed. She would tell her friends the big news, and they would immediately shower her with amazed cheers and excited congratulations. However, a band? Marin tilted her head, looking a bit confused. The rest of the service club fell dead silent. This was nothing like she imagined. The corners of Hitori's mouth froze mid-smile, and she began trembling like a leaf. It's nothing. As expected, I'm still just a useless paramecium. I'm sorry for wasting your time with my stupid, insignificant life updates. Ha 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 ha. Before Hitori could spiral any further, laughter erupted across the room. Kai was the first to crack up, and even Yukino couldn't hold back a soft chuckle. Hitori froze, totally blindsided by their reaction. That's not going to cut it, you know. Kai shook his head with a warm smile. As Hitori blinked in confusion, Marin leaned in with a wide grin. He's right. If you get this nervous just talking to us, what are you going to do when you're up on stage facing a massive crowd? You can't freeze up like that. You definitely need to practice, Hitori. Hearing their words, tears began pooling in Hitori's eyes. She actually thought they didn't care about her at all. All right, all right. Kai reached out and ruffled her pink hair affectionately. We're your friends. With your guitar skills, Bocce, you'll rock that stage. Sooner or later, you're going to be the brightest star up there. Receiving Kai's encouragement struck a chord. Visualizing herself shredding on stage while the crowd chanted her name sent a jolt of pure adrenaline through Hitori's veins. I'll do my best. Watching her get fired up, Kai just smiled and didn't say anything to burst her bubble. Instead, his mind started racing. Hitori's band had to be Kesaku Band. Aside from Hitori on guitar, the lineup included Najika Ejichi on drums, Ryo Yamada on bass, and Ikuyo Kita on vocals. Every single one of them was a main heroine. He could farm a ton of system rewards from them. His efforts in befriending Hitori were finally paying off. Following Kai's lead, Marin, Yukino, and Megumi all chimed in to encourage her. As friends, they genuinely wanted to see Hitori succeed. Listening to their cheers, Hitori smiled brightly, nodding her head repeatedly. This was great. Being congratulated by her friends felt better than anything in the world. At the same time, Hitori kept stealing quick glances at Kai out of the corner of her eye. Like a timid hamster, she would peek and immediately look away, terrified someone would catch her staring. But she just couldn't help herself. In Hitori's mind, she owed her new band entirely to Kai. If he hadn't told her to hang out at the park after school, she never would have been scouted in the first place. It was all thanks to him. Thinking about it made her smile even wider. Didn't this prove that she and Kai were destined for each other? Hitori thought she was being stealthy. In reality, aside from the notoriously dense Yukino, both Marin and Megumi easily picked up on her strange behavior. Those sneaky little glances were just too on-brand for Bocce. Catching on, Marin's smile grew even more devious. She missed her chance today, but next time, there was no way Hitori would turn them down. Adding another player to the roster meant they could test out way more game modes. Megumi noticed Marin's scheming look but just shook her head and stayed quiet. By the way, since you joined a band, you must have a gig coming up, right? When and where are you playing? Kai asked suddenly. Hitori was his golden ticket to meeting the rest of Kesaku Band. He wasn't about to let this chance slip by. Not suspecting a thing, Hitori nodded eagerly. She was desperate to show off in front of her friends and prove how cool she looked on stage. However, Hitori was so lost in her fantasies that she completely forgot to consider if she actually had the guts to perform in front of a live crowd. Our first gig is next weekend. That soon? Yukino looked surprised. If they just formed the band, shouldn't they spend more time rehearsing? How did they book a show so fast? Because everyone else is really good. Hitori truly believed that. Since the rest of the band was so talented, playing a show early shouldn't be an issue, right? Knowing Hitori's secret identity as Guitar Hero, Yukino didn't doubt her. She just nodded. If Hidori said her bandmates were talented, they had to be the real deal. All right then. When the gig rolls around, we'll all geo-watch together. Kai decided. I can't wait to hear you play, Hidori. Marin agreed instantly. There was no way she was missing a fun hangout like this. Yukino and Megumi nodded in agreement. It was their friend's first concert. They had to be there to support her. Every 200 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 111, 111, Sick. A group leave of absence 1375 words next target, 400 horsepower. Basking in her friend's support, Hidori Goto was thrilled. Her mind was already swimming with fantasies of becoming an overnight sensation. The more she thought about it, the happier she got. Hee, she eventually broke into a goofy, foolish giggle. The other girls just shook their heads. They had known Hidori long enough to understand her quirks, so her spacing out didn't surprise them in the least. Instead, they started asking about her bandmates. Knowing Hitori's gullible nature, they genuinely worried she might have been scammed or tricked into something shady. They're all girls. Hearing that the entire band was female put their minds at ease. Either way, they were going to watch the gig. They would see exactly what kind of crowd she was running with then. The next day, when Kai walked into the classroom, he immediately noticed it looked much emptier than usual. Where's Hayama and the guys? Kai finally realized what was missing. Hayato Hayama, who was always early, had an empty desk. It wasn't just Hayama. Kakeru, Tobe, Yamato, and Uka, the entire popular clique, were nowhere to be seen. Aside from Kai, only the girls from the popular group were present. Who knows? Yumiko Miura shrugged, not caring in the slightest. She hadn't paid attention to Hayama in a long time. She didn't care about those guys and hadn't even bothered sending a text to check on them. Seeing Kai take his seat, Yumiko dragged her chair over and sat right next to him. Yui Yokohama glanced left and right. It still felt a bit weird, but she didn't say anything. Having already experienced this yesterday, her tolerance for the situation had noticeably increased. I heard they went with Tobe to meet his online girlfriend. Hina Ebena's voice suddenly drifted over from behind them. She pushed up her glasses, looking like a wise sage who knew all the secrets. When did you get here? Yumiko blinked in surprise. I've been here the whole time. Hina felt a bit speechless. Ever since Kai entered the picture, Yumiko only had eyes for him, completely ignoring everyone else. In a high school culture dictated by cliques, getting marginalized meant you were about to be ostracized. While Hina knew Yumiko wasn't the type to do that on purpose, she didn't want to end up as the odd one out. Am I going to have to join them? Her gaze swept over Yumiko and Yui before finally landing on Kai's face. Honestly, it wasn't like she'd be losing out on the deal. Kai clearly noticed her staring. He turned his head and gave Hina a curious glance. Realizing she was caught, Hina quickly cleared her throat and looked away. Kai didn't push it, his eyes turning thoughtful. He hadn't paid much attention to Hina before, but there was no denying she was a genuine beauty too. Strictly speaking, anime heroines were rarely ugly. She just didn't talk much and kept a low profile, so Kai hadn't focused on her. Plus, with so many heroines surrounding him, he genuinely lacked the time. They all went to meet Tobe's online girlfriend. Yumiko looked bewildered. Meeting an online date with a whole entourage. That was a new one. Tobe probably just didn't have the guts to go alone, Hina said calmly, shrugging. It wasn't common, but it wasn't exactly shocking either. Yumiko clicked her tongue. I didn't realize Tobe was such a coward. He always acted so loud and outgoing. She thought he had some backbone, but he turned out to be a wimp. Thank goodness I never pushed you to date him, Hina. If she had actually set Hina up with a guy like that, she would have ruined her friend's life. Hina just shook her head and stayed quiet. She never had any special feelings for Tobe in the first place. Plus, her personality was completely different from Yui's. Even if Yumiko had tried playing matchmaker, Hina knew she never would have ended up with a guy like Tobe. Yumiko's curiosity piqued. If they went to meet an online date, why are they all late? Class is about to start. Maybe they took the day off. Yui chimed in. Hina looked at Yumiko curiously. Should we call and check on them? After all, they were technically friends. Yumiko waved her hand, rejecting the idea instantly. They aren't kids. What could possibly happen to them? I don't have time for that. Are you kidding? She'd rather spend that time pressing herself against Kai than calling some guys. Hina stayed silent and nodded. She glanced at Yui sitting on the other side of Kai, still seemingly oblivious, and let out a helpless sigh. Soon enough, the bell rang. Shizuka Hiratsuka walked into the classroom with her textbooks and immediately noticed the empty seats left by Hayama and his crew. She frowned. She hadn't received a single call about them taking sick leave this morning. Wait here a moment. Dropping her books on the podium, Shizuka pulled out her phone and stepped into the hallway. As a responsible teacher, she needed to find out why her students were missing and make sure they hadn't gotten into an accident. A short while later, she pocketed her phone and walked back in. Hayato Hayama and the others called in sick today. Let's start the lesson. By the way, the weather has been getting colder lately, so make sure you stay warm. Keep an eye on the temperature when you go out so you don't catch a cold. Reading between the lines, it sounded like Hayama and his friends had caught a cold while hanging out together. So that's what happened. Yumiko scoffed softly. She thought it was something serious. The rest of the class didn't pay it much mind either. Catching a cold and skipping school was a totally normal occurrence for students. If anything, some of them were jealous they weren't the ones sick at home right now. Kai didn't care about the news either. Why would he waste his time thinking about a bunch of guys when he had beautiful heroines surrounding him? After school, Kai didn't head straight home. He made a quick phone call, walked out the school gates, and headed in a different direction. Just then, a sleek, expensive luxury car pulled up right next to him. The window rolled down, revealing Ari's clearly annoyed face. Why didn't you wait for me? Today was the day he was invited to the Sawamura estate. Ari had waited in her classroom for ages, but Kai never showed up. She had to ask around just to find out he had already left the building. She immediately ordered her driver to follow his route, finally catching up to him a fair distance from the school. Why didn't you wait for me? She repeated, her tone carrying a clear trace of hurt. Did this guy really hate walking with her that much? Seeing Ari pouting so pitifully, Kai couldn't help but laugh. I was just doing it for your own good. Ari blinked in surprise, not expecting that answer. Kai shrugged and answered smoothly. You're the school's famous rich heiress and the ace of the art club. Rumors are already spreading that I'm a massive player. If you walk out of school with me, aren't you worried it'll ruin your pristine reputation? People had definitely noticed him hanging out with various girls, and the Playboy label was already making its rounds. Not that Kai cared in the slightest. Why would he value the opinions of random mob characters who couldn't even trigger system quests? They don't know anything. Ari shot back without a moment's hesitation, clearly taking his side. As far as she was concerned, Kai's interactions with those girls had to be related to cursed spirits. They must have run into trouble, and Kai was just stepping in to save them. After all, in Ari's eyes, Kai was just a kind-hearted guy who loved helping people. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 112, the sudden return of Spencer Sawamura. 1257 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. What if someone sees me getting into your car? If rumors start flying around school that we're together, what are we going to do? Kai's interest was piqued, teasing her with a wide smile. Really? Is that an option? Arari didn't worry about hiding it. Instead, she experienced a rush of pleasant surprise. Maybe this could be her chance to start dating Kai for real. However, her tsundere instincts quickly took over. Arari caught herself mid-sentence, paused, and turned her head away. Let them talk. I don't care, she scoffed, pretending not to care at all. Hoping she would admit she was excited was just wishful thinking. Kai laughed out loud at her classic tsundere act. He let it go and got into the passenger seat. With Kai suddenly so close, Arari caught his scent and let out a nervous cough. She looked away, her face turning bright red as she avoided his eyes. She ordered the chauffeur, desperately trying to compose herself. Right away, miss. The driver had worked for the Sawamura family for years and had watched Arari grow up. Seeing her act so flustered, he smiled to himself like a proud grandfather. The young miss really was growing up. The car ride back was quiet. Arari tried to hype herself up and come up with something to say, yet whenever she was about to speak, she froze. Watching Kai stare out the window with his chin in his hand, she suddenly felt defeated. What's his deal? Is the scenery outside prettier than me? He just kept staring out the window, completely ignoring her. As she quietly watched his side, Arari's racing heart started to calm down. For some reason, she felt a sense of peace. If only time could stop right now, she thought. At least he was sitting beside her, close enough to reach out and touch. We've arrived. Soon, the car stopped in front of the Sawamura estate. We're here. Startled by the driver's voice, Arari blinked in confusion. Once she recognized her own front door, she quickly snapped back to reality. Well, don't tell me you were staring at me this whole time, and got completely mesmerized. Kai teased. How did you know? She almost said it out loud, but when she looked up, she saw Kai's amused expression. This jerk. He had noticed her staring for a while and stayed quiet just to tease her. No, I wasn't. I was just, Arari fumbled. Just looking at the scenery on your side. That's all. She puffed out her cheeks. Don't flatter yourself. Dropping that flimsy excuse, Arari shoved the door open and bolted out of the car, sprinting straight into the villa. Watching her run away, Kai couldn't help but laugh as he stepped out to follow her. Left alone in the front seat, the driver let out a heavy sigh. That wasn't how someone acted around a boy they liked. The driver just hoped the young miss would realize her feelings soon. Stepping through the front door, Arari called out just like she always did. But this time, the house was quiet. No one answered. Arari froze, worry tightening her face. They had just been through a lot recently. What if her mother had run into another cursed spirit? Are you? Just as she was about to yell again, Kai walked in behind her, gently tapped her shoulder, and pointed toward the living room. Confused, Arari followed his finger. Sitting on the sofa just a short distance away, staring blankly at the floor, was Sayuri Sawamura. Sayuri looked terrible. She sat in silence, staring into space, not even noticing Arari walk in. Seeing her mom was safe, Arari let out a sigh of relief, and walked over, curiosity taking over. Mom, what's wrong? Getting no reaction, Arari called out a few more times before Sayuri finally snapped out of it. Looking up, Sayuri saw her daughter. Then, her eyes shifted to Kai standing right behind her. The moment she saw Kai, a faint smile finally broke through her grim expression. You're here too. Oh, come on. Seeing her mother play favorites made Arari roll her eyes. I walked in first, but you didn't even say hi to me. Something seemed strange. Her mom and Kai seemed a bit too comfortable around each other. Didn't I just say your name first? Sayuri played innocent, blinking in faux confusion, as if she had no idea what her daughter was talking about. Not this again. It was the same old trick as always. Whenever her mom didn't want to answer, she pretended not to understand. Aerie always fell for it and never knew how to respond. Aerie let it go. She was more worried about why her mother had been sitting on the couch, lost in thought. It had taken several shouts to get her attention. Mom, seriously, what's wrong? Why are you sitting here alone in the dark? Aerie's question clearly struck a nerve. Whatever Sayuri remembered made her face go pale. The faint smile she had managed to show disappeared. Seeing that reaction, Aerie was shocked, and even Kai arched an eyebrow. It looked like Sayuri was really in trouble. While Kai held his tongue, Aerie couldn't contain her worry and pressed for an answer. But just then, something happened. Is Aerie home? A sudden voice resounded from the second floor. Aerie froze when she heard the familiar voice. She looked up, surprised and happy, as Spencer Sawamura walked down the stairs with a big smile. Aerie grinned, glad to see her dad after so long. She didn't notice that Sayuri's face turned cold as soon as Spencer entered. When did you get back? I thought you weren't supposed to be home for a while. Spencer worked overseas most of the time, and only came home for a few days each month. He missed his visit last month, which made Aerie miserable. She never expected him to show up like this. Something came up, so I decided to head back early. Spencer answered smoothly, his smile looking perfectly normal. Sayuri clenched her fists, looking like she was about to lose her temper. Noticing all of this, Kai quietly stepped behind Sayuri and gently put a hand on her shoulder. He didn't know all the details, but it was clear there were serious problems between her and Spencer. Still, she wasn't alone, she had him. Feeling Kai's hand on her shoulder, Sayuri shot him a quick sideways glance, meeting his warm, reassuring gaze. Kai liked to joke, but he never walked away when someone needed help. Sayuri was important to him, and she had always treated him well. He wouldn't let her handle this alone. The look in Kai's eyes helped ease some of the burden Sayuri felt. The truth was, Sayuri had stopped loving Spencer a long time ago. Learning he still missed his childhood sweetheart only confirmed it. Divorce wouldn't bother her or change much in her life. The only thing that made her angry was knowing Aerie would be hurt by all this. Aerie, still unaware of the stress in the room, moved forward to greet her father. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 113, 113, The Urban Legend, Tomy 1184 words next target, 400 horsepower. But as Aerie moved forward, Sayuri grabbed her arm. Aerie blinked, surprised. Why was her mom stopping her? Do you really think your mother would hurt you? Kai asked with a pleasant smile, catching Aerie's confusion. Even though her mother always teased her just to see her get flustered, Aerie knew deep down that Sayuri loved her, and would never hurt her. Plus, Kai was here too. So even though she was confused, Aerie stayed where she was. Sayuri let out a quiet breath, and gave Kai a grateful look. Without him, she wouldn't have known what to say to Aerie just then. You must be Kai. Aerie mentioned you quite a bit while I was overseas. Spencer Sawamura maintained a warm, pleasant smile the entire time as he looked at Kai. Even while he was overseas, Aerie often called him, and would end up talking about Kai without even realizing it. Aerie whined, her cheeks flushing red at the call-out. Spencer laughed, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Sorry. Looks like our little Aerie really is growing up. He sounded nostalgic, acting like the perfect doting father. But his warm act didn't do anything to ease the tension in the living room. Spencer noticed the tense mood. Seeing Sayuri's angry look, he stopped the small talk and turned to Arari. Right, Arari, let me introduce you to your new mother. That statement made Kai raise an eyebrow. What was Spencer thinking? Bringing his mistress home to meet his wife and daughter explained the tense atmosphere. Kai realized his own situation was a bit similar, though he was just adding to his own harem without any commitments. Dad, Mom is right here. What are you talking about? Arari was confused and didn't get what he meant. She looked at Sayuri, wondering if she had heard wrong. Her mother was right there. No, not her. Spencer maintained his gentle smile. Your new mother. Arari froze and stared at him, unable to believe what she had just heard. And new mother. Even Arari could figure it out now. No wonder her mother looked so upset earlier. Tears quickly filled Arari's eyes. I don't want a new mother. Dad, what are you saying? You're joking, right? Please tell me this is a joke. Seeing Arari break down was the last straw for Sayuri. Sayuri snapped furiously at Spencer. Sayuri's worst fear was coming true. She didn't care about the divorce, but Spencer bringing his mistress home, and expecting Arari to accept her was something she would never allow. Arari only has one mother, and that's me. Even if we divorce, don't you dare think about taking her away, and definitely don't expect her to call another woman her mother. When it came to protecting her daughter, Sayuri looked fierce, glaring at her soon-to-be ex-husband. Sue me if you think you can win. Don't forget, we are in Japan. This is our turf. You know how much influence the Sawamura family has. I'd like to see you try and take Arari from me. Spencer held a high-ranking diplomatic status, but his power lay overseas. The Sawamura family was a well-established Japanese conglomerate. Even though Sayuri belonged to a branch family, she still carried the Sawamura name. If things got ugly, the main family wouldn't just sit back and watch. As the saying goes, even a powerful outsider can't always beat someone with local influence. And Spencer wasn't exactly powerful here. Spencer obviously knew this. Glancing at Arari clinging to her mother, he just shook his head. I only came back to pack a few things. I've already signed the divorce papers, I'll hand them over shortly. If Arari is against it, then let's drop it. He chose to respect his daughter's wishes. Not that he had a choice, he couldn't win a custody battle here anyway. Hearing that, it finally sank in. Her parents were really getting a divorce. Everything seemed fine before. Why were they breaking up now? There was no warning. Arari felt completely shocked. Can we leave now? Just then, a sultry, lazy voice drifted down from the second floor. Even without seeing her, that one sentence sounded so seductive that it was easy to imagine a beautiful woman waiting upstairs. Kai instinctively frowned. As soon as he heard that voice, Kai experienced a wave of malice. It wasn't cursed energy, but pure, concentrated malice, the kind that could attract cursed spirits. No normal person should give off that feeling. In an instant, Spencer's gentle demeanor vanished. He was replaced by a fawning, subservient eagerness, looking exactly like a desperate simp groveling before his goddess. When Kai heard that name, everything made sense. No wonder. If Sadako existed in this world, it made sense that another famous urban legend like Tomi Kawakami would appear too. Tomi was almost as well known as Sadako in Japan. A moment later, a stunningly beautiful woman appeared. Tomi Kawakami, slender and alluring, walked gracefully down the stairs. Seeing her navigate the steps, Spencer rushed over to offer his arm. Tomi gave a satisfied smirk, acting like she owned the place. She glanced at Sayuri and Arari, then focused on Kai. She clearly didn't expect to see another man here. Her eyes brightened with interest. What do you want? Arari had been glaring at the woman since she appeared. Seeing her lock eyes with Kai sparked a sudden panic in Arari's chest. She quickly stepped in front of Kai, terrified that he might fall under the woman's spell too. You can leave now. Sayuri snapped. She wanted to keep Kai far away from Tomi, even if she couldn't explain why. She just knew Tomi was dangerous. "Tomi, shall we go?" Stripped of his earlier composure, Spencer acted pathetic and subservient, waiting entirely on Tomi's command. Tomi didn't answer right away. She slowly looked around the fancy living room before saying, "I really like this villa." She didn't say it directly, but it was clear what she meant. She wanted the house for herself. Kai wasn't surprised. According to the urban legend, Tomi was a vain and greedy creature driven by vanity and malice. She craved a life of extreme luxury and excess. She did not care about quality. She only wanted whatever cost the most. In the end, that was Tomi Kawakami in a nutshell. Spencer hesitated. Tomi just shot him a sharp look. That was all it took. Spencer turned to Sayuri and said with confidence, "We are still legally married. Even if we divorce, I am entitled to half of this estate." Sayuri didn't say a word. Was she angry? Not anymore. Instead, Sayuri let out a bitter, mocking laugh. She couldn't believe he had the nerve to say something so shameless. What had she ever seen in him? Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 114. 114. Sorry, none of you are leaving 1268 words next target, 400 horsepower. You guys owe me bonus chapters. Don't worry, I will bulk upload later on. Sayuri Sawamura couldn't bear to look at him for another second. This house is my premarital property. You have zero claim to it. Don't forget you're the one committing adultery here. Sue me if you think you have a case. Spencer hadn't expected her to react so strongly. She showed him no respect at all. He was ready to snap back, but Sayuri's fierce glare stopped him right away. Spencer became silent, unable to say a word. He wasn't stupid. He knew Sayuri was telling the truth. After all their years together, and since he wasn't asking for custody of Arari, he thought she'd let him have the house. He never expected her to refuse him so harshly. Spencer took a deep breath to calm himself, then looked at Tomi with a pleading expression. "Tomi, don't worry. I still have money. I can buy you another villa, one even bigger and better than this." "But I want this one," Tomi pouted, looking at Spencer with a fragile, delicate expression. Seeing Sayuri's heartbroken glare only made Tomi enjoy the moment more. That was just who Tomi was, cruel at heart. She had only asked for the villa on a whim, but watching Sayuri fight for it made her want it even more. There was no deeper reason. She simply loved to watch others suffer. Hurting people and enjoying their misery was her favorite thing. When he saw Tomi's sad, pleading eyes, Spencer gave in. He was completely under her spell and couldn't say no. Sayuri Sawamura. He whipped his head around, fixing his ex-wife with a vicious glare. "Give me this villa. Otherwise, I'll fight you tooth and nail for custody of Arari. This might be Japan, but I have the resources to drag this out in court for years. If you don't want Arari living a miserable life with me, hand over the house." Spencer knew exactly what he was doing. From start to finish, Sayuri's only weakness was Arari. Sayuri never saw this coming. She never expected Spencer to use their own daughter as a bargaining chip. She stared at him in total disbelief. Arari mirrored her mother's look of horror. She couldn't believe it either. The man standing there spouting such venom was supposed to be her gentle, refined father. "You don't want Arari to suffer, do you, Sayuri?" But Spencer was too far gone. With Tomi clouding his mind, he didn't care about anyone else, not even his own daughter. All he wanted was to get the villa for her. Sayuri started to speak, but Kai beat her to it. Kai, who had been quiet until now, cleared his throat and stepped in front of Sayuri, blocking Spencer's view of her. His sudden movement drew everyone's attention. Aerie turned to him, looking lost and sad, like an abandoned puppy. She had thought today would be a happy day. She finally got to invite him over for dinner, but everything turned into a nightmare. Her usual tough act was gone, and she was close to breaking down. "It's fine," Kai said, meeting her teary eyes. He kept it short, just trying to reassure her. Tomi looked up at Kai with real interest. Her eyes were playful and a bit mocking. She didn't seem worried at all. "This is a family matter. It has nothing to do with you." Spencer frowned at Kai. Even if this kid was close to Aerie, he had no right to get involved. "If this was only a family argument, I wouldn't get involved. But since there's a cursed spirit, that's different." Kai answered calmly. "A cursed spirit?" Sayuri and Aerie froze. Realization quickly dawned on them. Spencer just looked confused. He clearly had no idea what a cursed spirit was. "I'm right, aren't I? You're a special cursed spirit from an urban legend. Miss Tomi Kawakami." Kai tilted his head and looked straight at Tomi. Hearing her name, Tomi visibly paused. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." She acted innocent, but she quietly stepped back. She knew she'd been found out. She immediately turned to Spencer. "I'm tired. Let's go back." Right. Spencer blinked and nodded quickly. He was ready to take her out right away. To Spencer, Tomi was everything now. They had just reached the front doors when a dark rift opened in the air. Something monstrous crawled out and stared hungrily at Spencer and Tomi. Monster. Spencer fell to the floor in terror. He stared with wide eyes, unable to believe what he was seeing. How could something so terrifying be real? Only Tomi stayed where she was, not afraid, though her face darkened. "Sorry, but none of you are leaving yet," Kai said calmly, his voice carrying across the room. Right after he spoke, dark rifts opened up all over the villa. Cursed spirits crawled out from the shadows one after another. Among them were the Spider Woman and Sadako he had already defeated, and even the special-grade cursed spirit he'd just absorbed at the construction site. "So you're a jujitsu sorcerer?" Tomi narrowed her eyes. "Looks like Miss Tomi has been in this world for a while. Otherwise, you wouldn't know about sorcerers." Kai smirked. Tomi Kawakami was an immortal monster who never aged. She didn't look dangerous at first glance. In every version of her urban legend, she was no stronger than a regular schoolgirl. But her real threat came from her special powers. First, she was immortal. Even if Tomi was reduced to a single cell, she could slowly grow back. She could keep multiplying and dividing, and each clone could live on its own. Second, she had a twisted, supernatural charm. Anyone who spent time with her would fall under her spell, and become dangerously obsessed. The longer they stayed, the more unhinged their devotion grew. It started with possessiveness and could end with a desire to kill and consume her. Looking at Spencer now, he hadn't reached the point of wanting to eat her, but his possessiveness was obvious. "That woman is a cursed spirit." Sayuri and Aerie finally caught on. "She looks human, but she's a very rare kind of cursed spirit," Kai explained. Just then, he saw something strange. The cursed spirits he'd summoned were all staring at Tomi, looking more and more restless. They watched her like she was the best meal they'd ever seen. Even the Spider Woman and Sadako looked at her with the same hungry eyes. Kai was intrigued by their strange behavior. Was it because Tomi was so unique? She was like a living bundle of every negative human emotion. For cursed spirits, that was the best thing they could eat. They really did see her as food. Kai didn't say anything, but he made a note of it in his mind. "Don't you dare hurt Tomi." Suddenly, Spencer, who had been frozen with fear just moments before, found new strength. He jumped in front of Tomi, ready to protect her at any cost. "Dad, what are you doing? Didn't you hear Kai? That woman is a cursed spirit." She's a monster. You're being brainwashed, you have to. Before Aerie could finish, Spencer cut her off with a cold, harsh shout. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon. https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 115. 115. A unique Tomi Kawakami. She's mine. 1322 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Sorry, that was the wrong chapter. This is the correct one. I don't care what Tomi is. She is my everything now, and I won't let anyone hurt her. Right then, Spencer really looked like someone willing to give up everything for the woman he loved. It was just too bad the woman he was protecting was his mistress. If she hadn't been, the moment might have actually been moving. Aerie used to think her father was just under a spell. She believed things would return to normal once this woman was gone. But now, seeing Spencer, Aerie understood her real father was gone. The man in front of her was a stranger. Once she realized this, Aerie stayed silent and closed her eyes. Very touching, but what a shame. Kai shook his head at Spencer. Spencer was just an ordinary person, with no chance of a sudden, miraculous power-up. Kai didn't bother saying anything. He simply waved his hand. Suddenly swish, swish, swish. A lock of hair shot out from the Spider-Woman. It whipped around Spencer, tying him up so tightly he couldn't move at all. Gagged and bound, Spencer thrashed wildly, desperately trying to shield Tomi. Tomi didn't even spare him a passing glance. What are you trying to do? Tomi panicked as Kai locked his gaze on her. She could regenerate and come back to life, but that didn't mean she wanted to die. After all, the new Tomi would actually be a different person. What do you think? Kai tilted his head, maintaining his smirk. With a group of hungry cursed spirits staring at her, Tomi would have to be clueless not to understand what was coming. Can you really bear to kill me? I am so beautiful. Don't you want to make me yours? Tomi knew her beauty was her best weapon. She thought all men were the same, and she didn't care about Kai's supposed strength. Disgusting. When Tomi tried to seduce Kai, both Sayuri and Aerie glared at her. Spencer kept struggling on the floor, unaware that Tomi was offering herself to someone else. All he cared about was saving her. What's so special about those two? They're plain and boring. But I'm different. I can give you what you really want. Tomi sounded more confident with each word. Ever since she was born and learned about jujitsu sorcerers, she had kept her distance from them. She wasn't stupid, and she knew better than to stir up trouble. But now things had changed. She couldn't run anyway. If she could use this chance to get a sorcerer under her control with her charm, she would never have to worry about anything again. Thinking that, Tomi gave a seductive smile and walked slowly toward Kai. Kai casually raised a hand. The next second, Tomi felt the world turn upside down. Her upper body hit the floor. When she saw her lower half still standing a few feet away, Tomi realized she had been cut in half. Twisting her head around, she met Kai's gaze, a pair of slowly spinning Manjikyu Sharingan. At the end of the day, your charm is just a form of illusion. Trying to beat me in a battle of illusions. You're way out of your league. Honestly, Kai didn't care much for Tomi's cheap parlor tricks. He didn't give her a chance to speak. The Manjikyu in his eyes began to spin rapidly. A violent spatial distortion appeared. Tomi's split body was sucked into the Kamui dimension. Kai didn't leave even a drop of her blood behind. The villa quickly returned to normal. With Tomi gone, the summoned cursed spirits were disappointed, but because of cursed spirit manipulation, none of them had the courage to move. They waited quietly. Kai waved his hand, and the spirits faded into the shadows. At the same time, the hair holding Spencer disappeared, setting him free. As soon as he could move, Spencer didn't look at his family. He rushed to where Tomi had disappeared and started clawing at the floor, desperately searching for her. Give her back. Give my Tommy back to me. Finding nothing, Spencer whipped his head around, glaring venomously at Kai. He looked ready to tear Kai apart if he didn't hand her over. That woman was a monster. Couldn't you see that? Arari yelled. When Tommy was cut in half, she didn't die. It was clear she wasn't human if she could survive that. Anyone could see it. When Arari saw her father actually threaten Kai, she couldn't hold back. Dad, that monster is dead. You should be snapping out of it by now. She wanted her father to go back to normal. Before Arari could finish, Spencer cut her off with a sharp command. For the rest of my life, the only woman I will ever love is Tomi Kawakami. How could you? Arari stared in shock and stepped back. She never thought her father would say something like that. Kai just shook his head, staying silent. Tomi's charm was impossible to break. For a normal person, once they fell for her, the damage couldn't be undone. Even after Tomi died, her victims stayed obsessed with her forever. If Tomi is a monster, then she wouldn't die that easily. She has to be coming back. I'm going to find her. I have to find her. Spencer babbled before sprinting out the front door. Arari instinctively tried to chase after him. But Sayuri grabbed her arm, holding her back. Arari, from now on, Mom will always be by your side. Sayuri promised. Hearing that, Arari finally understood. Spencer was never coming back. She stayed silent, buried her face in her mother's chest, and cried. Later that night, after a long time comforting her, Sayuri finally got Arari to sleep. Tired, Sayuri went downstairs and saw Kai eating dessert. Just seeing him made her feel a little better. She took a bottle of wine from the kitchen and sat down across from him. Thank you for today, Sayuri said. If it weren't for you, Arari, and I would have been in serious trouble. She still couldn't believe Tomi Kawakami was a cursed spirit. If Kai hadn't been there, the day would have ended in disaster. It was nothing, Kai said with a casual smirk, waving his hand as he accepted the glass of wine she poured for him. I guess that makes me Arari's daddy, in a way. Sayuri blinked in confusion, then realized what he meant. She gave him a sultry, reproachful look. You're so bad. The memories came rushing back. During their previous session. By that logic, he really was Arari's daddy. Well then. Sayuri's gaze darkened with a suggestive glint. Do you want to experience that feeling again? She had put up a strong front all day, but after everything that happened, she felt emotionally drained. All she wanted to do now was let go and relax. Of course. Looking at the alluring Sayuri, Kai broke into a grin. She was handing him an open invitation. Turning her down now would be a crime against manhood. Late into the night, a disheveled and delirious Spencer stumbled down a deserted alleyway, clutching a half-full liquor bottle. He was a complete wreck. He muttered Tomi's name under his breath, repeating it like a broken record. Just then, a slender silhouette stepped out from the shadows at the other end of the alley. It was a woman wearing a surgical mask. She walked toward Spencer and stopped just a few feet away. Am I beautiful? Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 116, The Slit. 1290 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Sorry guys. About yesterday's wrong chapter, I was sick and exhausted. I honestly couldn't even move a finger. Be beautiful. Spencer nodded instinctively. Even though a surgical mask hid half her face, the woman's figure and striking eyes stood out. It was easy to picture a real beauty beneath the mask. His answer made her eyes twist into a deep smile. Is that so? She whispered. She slowly raised her hand and took off the mask. How about now? Spencer's eyes bulged. The alcohol instantly evaporated from his system. Monster. Beneath the mask was a terrible grin, cut from ear to ear. It looked like someone had sliced her cheeks open with scissors. Fresh drops of blood dripped onto the pavement. When she saw Spencer's fear, her smile grew wider. She pulled out a pair of blood-stained scissors. His screams faded into the quiet night. No one noticed. Soon, the woman moved on to find her next victim. Spencer's body lay on the cold ground, his mouth cut from ear to ear in the same awful grin. Am I beautiful? Am I beautiful? The woman muttered endlessly as she faded into the shadows. From then on, the chilling story of the slit-mouthed woman began to spread. Let me out. Let me out of here. Later that night, as soon as Kai entered his Kamui dimension, he was met with a clamor of angry voices. Everyone else thought Tomi Kawakami was dead. But Kai knew the truth. He hadn't killed her, he had sent her into the Kamui dimension. That was what made Kamui such a powerful, all-purpose ability. It allowed phasing for defense, spatial distortion for attacks, and instant teleportation for movement. On top of that, it had a huge storage space. Objects and living beings could all be pulled inside. Tomi was no exception. He had just sliced her in half, but she was already fully healed. Her regenerative powers were even stronger than he imagined. Because she had been cut in half, each piece grew into a new copy of her. Even her scattered cells turned into new Tomis. While they were technically clones, Tomi's situation was unique. The clones did not get along with each other. They were actually sworn, bloodthirsty enemies. According to the urban legend, whenever two Tomis crossed paths, their first instinct was to slaughter each other. Every single one of them wanted to be the one and only Tomi. They were likely holding back from fighting only because they were trapped in a strange place. Instead of attacking each other, they searched the empty space, hoping to find a way out. Looks like you girls are full of energy, Kai announced with a smirk, slowly appearing in front of the horde of Tomis. You bastard. The Tomis froze in shock for a split second before snapping to attention. They glared at him with a volatile mix of hatred, caution, and deep-rooted fear. They all shared the same recent memories. They knew exactly how ruthless and terrifying this man was. They stood no chance against him in a fight. Did you trap us here? One of them demanded. Kai shrugged. He saw no reason to hide it. What's the plan? Lock us in here forever and starve us to death. Another Tomi sneered, thinking she had him figured out. People had tried to permanently kill Tomi Kawakami before. They had tried starvation, incineration, and every bizarre execution method under the sun. Yet Tomi always survived. You should just give up. Realizing this, several Tomis puffed up with arrogance, shooting him looks of pure disdain. That won't kill us. We could go hundreds of years without food or water and still survive. Assuming you even live that long, of course. They clearly didn't think Kai could live for centuries. No matter how strong his powers were, he was still human, and wouldn't live forever. Outliving people was Tomi's specialty as an immortal legend. All they had to do was lay low in this dimension for a few decades or even a few centuries. Once Kai died of old age, they could just waltz right out. It was child's play. Kai just laughed at their threats and stayed quiet. Seeing his calm reaction, a few of the Tomis started hatching a different scheme. They flashed him sultry, seductive smiles. If you listen to me, I wouldn't mind being your woman. Are you really telling me you aren't tempted by a face like this? Tomi's charm was her greatest weapon and gave her endless confidence. She believed no man could resist her, and every Tomi felt the same way. He clearly desires me. Back off, you cheap tramps. If he's going to belong to anyone, he's going to be my man. Bullshit. He's mine. Kai didn't need to say anything. The Tomis quickly turned on each other, fighting fiercely over who would claim him. You know. Kai interrupted before they could start ripping each other's throats out. There's really no need to fight over me. After all, this only matters if you actually survive what comes next. That instantly killed the brewing bloodbath. The Tomies exchanged glances before bursting into fits of mocking laughter. Ha 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 ha. What the hell is he talking about? If we survive. He clearly didn't understand what he was up against. Threatening a Tomie with death was the funniest thing they'd heard all day. We admit we can't beat you in a fight, one Tomie sneered. But kill us. You don't have what it takes. They really believed he was powerless to end their lives. Is that so? Kai smirked. Before the Tomies could mock him further, he slowly raised a hand. While the Tomies watched, Sadako suddenly appeared in the Kamui dimension. Cursed spirit manipulation worked just as well in this strange world. Summoned out of nowhere, Sadako paused for a second. She scanned the area, her stare lingering hungrily on the Tomies before snapping back to Kai, awaiting her orders. Now that I think about it, you've been with me for a while, but I haven't given you a real meal yet, Kai said as he brushed aside Sadako's long, dark hair. He realized he had never actually seen what she looked like. Out of curiosity, Kai gently parted her hair, tucking it behind her ears. It was the first time he got a clear look at Sadako's face. She was surprisingly pretty, with delicate features and very pale skin. She looked just like a high school girl. She stared at Kai with the same curiosity, not moving at all. Go on, Kai ordered with a calm smile. Tell me if you like the food I prepared for you. Those words instantly wiped the smug looks off the Tomies' faces. They finally understood what was going on. Sadako's curious stare instantly shifted to ravenous joy. The moment the order left his lips, she disappeared instantly in a flash. She lunged straight at the pack of Tomies. They might both be urban legends, but Sadako's combat strength was leagues above Tomies. Before they could even turn to run, Sadako snatched one of the clones by the throat. Let me go. Let go of me, the Tomie shrieked, thrashing wildly. Sadako ignored her and mimed a biting motion. A pitch-black mist began bleeding out of Tomie's body, streaming directly into Sadako's mouth as she ravenously absorbed it. With every second that passed, Sadako's cursed aura surged higher and stronger. Meanwhile, Tomie's frantic struggling grew weaker and weaker until she barely moved at all. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 117. 117. An obedient Tomie Kawakami 1193 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Tomie Kawakami was growing weaker. By the end, she was visibly aging right before their eyes. This sight made the other Tomies realize what was happening. The arrogance in their eyes vanished, replaced by sheer terror. Soon enough, the lifeless husk of that Tomie was tossed onto the ground. The moment she hit the floor, she shattered, falling into a pile of ash and fading without a trace. Meanwhile, Sadako looked completely satisfied. Her cursed energy had grown a lot compared to before. It wasn't much to Kai, but it was still easy power for her. It was just as he thought. As the most unique urban legend, Tomie embodied every negative emotion a human could have. And those negative emotions were the ultimate fertilizer for cursed spirits. Eating Tomie gave free strength. Even better, Tomie's crazy regeneration and cloning meant that catching one Tomie gave him an endless supply. That's enough. Just as Sadako geared up for seconds, Kai's voice rang out. Sadako stopped and looked back at him. Kai thought he saw a bit of disappointment in her eyes, as if she was asking, "Didn't you just tell me to eat? Why stop me now?" "Now don't be greedy," Kai teased. "You aren't my only cursed spirit. We have to save some for Spider-Woman and the others." Sadako didn't argue, though she clearly wanted more. She stood quietly to the side, her eyes still fixed on the Tomies. No need to hurry. You know how Tomy works. As long as we keep one alive, there will always be more. I promise you'll get plenty. Hearing that, a trace of realization flashed in Sadako's eyes. She nodded excitedly at Kai. Tomy. Hey, if you're going to talk about using us like livestock, could you at least say it where we can't hear? We're right here. Even if they complained, Kai didn't care. The rest of the Tomies finally understood what he had in mind for them. Tomy didn't fear humans, and she didn't fear sorcerers. But she was terrified of other cursed spirits. As a unique curse herself, she was ironically the one most vulnerable to her own kind. All right, let's keep going, Kai said. He wasn't stopping there. After Sadako, it was Spider-Woman's turn. He made sure to feed all his other curses too. With Tomy as a source, even if he never caught another wild cursed spirit, he could build an army of special grades quickly. At last, only the original Tomy was left. As the cursed spirits came closer, she stumbled back in fear. She moved no faster than a regular schoolgirl and couldn't escape. That's enough. Just then, Kai waved his hand, recalling the final cursed spirit into the shadows. He walked over to Tomy, who was slumped on the ground in terror. You should know why I kept you alive. He wasn't going to kill the last one, unless he found another Tomy somewhere else. She wasn't stupid. Hearing that, she knew her purpose. She was the breeder for future clones. I can do it. I'll do anything, just don't kill me. Each Tomy clone had her own personality. When a Tomy died and came back, she became a new person. That's why she didn't care how many others died. As long as she survived, nothing else mattered. I can help you. I'll do whatever you want, Master. You're my master. It seemed the slaughter had genuinely traumatized her. She threw her pride away just to stay alive. Good girl. Kai smiled at the Tomy groveling at his feet. As long as you behave, I won't just let you live. I'll let you live better than anyone else. Why yes, Master. Tomy didn't dare complain and nodded obediently. The next day, when Eri woke up and stepped out of her room, she called out, Mom. She was about to call for her mother as she walked downstairs, but instead, she saw Kai bringing breakfast from the kitchen. Seeing him first thing in the morning stunned her. She wondered if she was dreaming, or maybe even sleepwalking. Why are you? Go wash up and get ready to eat, Kai said, acting perfectly natural. He shot her a passing glance and gave the order smoothly. Still dazed, she nodded and went into the bathroom. It was only while brushing her teeth that it hit her. Wait a second. That's not right. Why am I listening to him? Just because he gives an order, do I have to follow? Her stubborn side kicked in. But as she looked at her foamy mouth in the mirror, she gave up on arguing. She finished washing up, put on a bit of makeup, and left the bathroom. By then, Kai had already set all the food on the table. You look pretty, Eri. Oh, of course I do. She looked away at his compliment, too shy to meet his eyes, but still stood a little taller. Her heart skipped with happiness. He said I look pretty. He's definitely into me. Sitting at the table and looking at Kai across from her, Eri felt like the whole scene was unreal. Was she dreaming? No, that couldn't be. She had pinched herself in the bathroom, and it hurt. This was real. Don't overthink it, Kai said, reading her expression. Sayuri was exhausted last night, so she's sleeping in. I made breakfast instead. As expected, Eri didn't notice anything strange. After all the drama yesterday, it made sense her mother needed more rest. Besides, Eri was focused on something else. You made all this? She stared at the breakfast in shock. She thought her mother had cooked and Kai just set the table. She never expected him to be the one who cooked. What's wrong? You don't like it? Kai tilted his head, pretending to be disappointed. If you don't want it, I'll just... He reached across the table, acting like he would take her plate. Who said I didn't like it? Seeing his hand move, Aori instinctively shielded her plate. She saw the teasing look in his eyes and blushed. She turned away, too embarrassed to meet his gaze. All right. Kai laughed. After everything that happened last night, I wanted to make sure nothing else went wrong, so I stayed over. Don't worry, I slept in the guest room. The Sawamura villa had plenty of spare rooms anyway. Technically, Kai wasn't lying. He did sleep in the guest room right next to Sayuri. The master bedroom was a disaster. He had underestimated Sayuri. It's fine. Aori shook her head. She wanted to make a snarky comment but held back. Kai had really helped them. Besides, her mother had warned her, if she kept acting stubborn, she might lose him for good. Thinking of that, Aori lowered her head and said quietly, thank you. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 118, 118, Aori, I'm super tough 1139 words next target, 400 horsepower. He hadn't expected it. For a textbook tsundere like Aori to actually say, thank you, made Kai's face soften, almost like a proud dad. Our little Aori has finally grown up. What is that supposed to mean? Aori huffed, but inside, she was secretly happy. She felt a little awkward and quickly looked away. Eating the breakfast Kai made, Aori felt the heavy grief from last night begin to fade. Even with the warm moment, Aori hadn't forgotten about Spencer. He had always treated her well. She still couldn't understand how the dad she remembered had become such a stranger. Spencer might just need some time to process everything. Maybe after being away for a while, he'll come back to himself, Kai said with a shrug, giving her a bit of hope. He wasn't going to tell her the harsh truth, Tomi's charm was permanent. Once someone fell under her spell, it was almost impossible to break free. And even if he ever met someone else, it was hard to say how long Spencer would survive. Tomi might look human, but she was really an urban legend. Being around someone like her for too long ruined a person's luck. The longer you stayed, the worse it got. In short, it brought serious bad luck. In a normal world, bad luck might just mean stubbing your toe or losing your wallet. But here, with cursed spirits everywhere, bad luck meant running into them much more often. If someone like Spencer met a wild cursed spirit, he wouldn't stand a chance. Kai kept that harsh truth to himself. Time was a powerful eraser. Given enough time, Aori's memories of Spencer would fade on their own. You think so? Unsurprisingly, Aori didn't doubt Kai's words. Believing her father was fine lifted a heavy weight off her chest. She thought about it for a moment but stayed quiet. Her mom was hurting the most right now. Bringing up Spencer would just make things worse. After everything that happened, Aori had grown up. She knew she had to be careful with others' feelings. All right, eat up. We'll head to school together, Kai said. Snapping out of her daze, Aori nodded quickly. She saw that Kai had already finished eating, so she started eating faster too. Just thinking about walking to school with him made her smile, even if she tried to hide it. Take your time eating. I'm going upstairs to let Sayuri know we're leaving. Aori agreed easily, but then caught his phrasing. You should be calling her auntie. Calling her Sayuri made it seem like Kai and her mom were equals. But before Aori could finish complaining, Kai was already upstairs. She muttered a few more complaints, then went back to her breakfast, her feet swinging happily under the table. Stepping into the bedroom, Kai found Sayuri still fast asleep. When she heard his voice, she didn't open her eyes. She just rolled over, half asleep. I can't eat any more, Daddy. I really can't. Her delirious muttering made Kai chuckle. He walked over and gave her a light pat. I'll let you digest before serving seconds. The touch finally woke her up. She blinked blearily, her eyes focusing on Kai standing beside the bed. What time is it? It took her a while to wake up fully. She reached for her phone on the nightstand, but her arms felt heavy. When Sayuri saw Kai grinning, she gave him a weak glare. Stop laughing. This is all your fault. He was the one who had worn her out so much. My fault, my fault. Kai didn't argue. He just waved his hand and laughed. Don't worry about the time. I made breakfast. It's in the kitchen. You can go back to sleep. Airi and I are heading to school. Knowing Kai had handled breakfast set her mind at ease. Letting someone as clumsy as Airi cook would be a disaster. Sayuri looked up at Kai and smiled softly. You're so thoughtful, honey. She reached up and hugged Kai warmly. Any guilt she felt before was gone now. She was single again, so what was the problem? What, no more daddy? Kai teased, letting her lean against him. Sayuri wasn't an innocent schoolgirl. Instead of getting embarrassed, she moved closer and whispered in his ear. Do you really like hearing me call you that? Kai had to admit, Sayuri truly knew what she was doing. She was dangerously cooperative. Noticing the shift in Kai's demeanor, her smile grew wider. Did you forget I can skip school today? Kai said. When Sayuri saw the sudden, dangerous look in his eyes, she froze. She quickly moved back across the bed. No, no, no. Save it for next time. She had eaten a lot last night. Having more now would be too much for her. Now you're scared. Kai said, but he wasn't going to push her. Even though his reverse curse technique could heal her body, Sayuri was still human. She needed real sleep to recover from mental exhaustion. She wasn't a machine. All right, get some proper rest. I'm taking Airi to school, Kai said, pulling the covers back over her before heading for the door. Sayuri nodded obediently. As she watched him leave, a real, happy smile appeared on her face. No matter what happened, she was happy in this moment, and that was enough. Life was short, and she was already in her 30s. If she kept worrying about what others thought, she'd miss out on living. Just this once, let me indulge, she whispered, closing her eyes and falling back asleep. If she didn't rest enough, she wouldn't have the energy for her next meal. Is Mom still asleep? Down in the living room, Airi had already finished eating. When she saw Kai come down by himself, she asked, curious. Yeah, she went back to sleep. She's pretty exhausted. Kai replied. Mom is so lazy. Airi joked, thinking her mom was just sad about her dad, and had stayed up crying all night. I guess that means you're super tough, then. Kai said, giving her a knowing smirk. Of course. I'm super tough. Airi said proudly, not noticing the hidden meaning. She would never admit defeat in front of him. Is that so? Then I'll have to test just how tough you are when I get the chance. Kai laughed. How do you even test something like that? Still, Airi met Kai's eyes and lifted her chin. Bring it on. I'm not scared of anything. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 119, 119, The Yukinoshita Family Dinner. 1318 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Unsurprisingly, Kai ended up riding to school in Airi's family car. When they got to the school gates, lots of people watched as Kai stepped out right after her. Whispers started up right away. Even without listening in, it was clear they weren't saying anything good. Kai's reputation as the school's playboy was spreading fast. Most of it stemmed from jealousy of the male students. The school had only so many top-tier beauties. Why did this guy get to surround himself with them? No matter how they looked at it, it just wasn't fair. Looks like Aries' pristine reputation is about to take a hit, Kai teased, tilting his head back to look at her. He didn't care about the stares in the slightest. As soon as they got to school, Aries slipped back into her usual haughty heiress act. I don't care about that at all, she said, pretending not to care. If it bothers you, go explain it yourself. I really don't care what they say. With that, she sped up and stormed off. She rushed off mostly because she was scared Kai would see her smiling. In reality, during the ride over, Kai had offered to get dropped off early so they could walk in separately. Aerie refused. She said there was no need. If they had nothing to hide, why care what others thought? But the truth was, Aerie planned it all. She wanted people to gossip about her and Kai. If the rumors got big enough, maybe she could use them to make things official with him. Thinking about it made Aerie let out a small giggle. She thought she was a genius. What Aerie didn't know was that shortly after she scurried away, Yukino Yukinoshita arrived. As the second daughter of the Yukinoshita family, Yukino also had a luxury car drop her off every morning. She got there just in time to see Kai get out of Aerie's car. She waited until Aerie left before walking over, her eyes showing a mix of emotions. You and Sawamura-san. Yukino trailed off. What, afraid of hearing an answer you don't like? Kai tilted his head, flashing a playful smirk at her hesitation. Yukino didn't flinch. She stared right back at him. While she possessed a bit of a tsundere streak herself, it was nowhere near Aerie's terminal level. Despite feeling slightly self-conscious under Kai's gaze, Yukino met his eyes without backing down, silently waiting for his answer. As expected of Yukino. Well, Aerie's family ran into a cursed spirit, so I went over to handle it, Kai explained. Though it is true that Aerie and I are on pretty good terms right now. Hearing the words cursed spirit visibly relaxed Yukino. As for the second half of his sentence, her brain automatically filtered it out. On good terms. They were just friends. What did it matter how well they got along? Oh right, Yukino murmured as they walked into the main building together, suddenly remembering something. My family is hosting a dinner soon. Do you want to come? Kai shot her a surprised look. Yukino kept walking, pretending not to notice his look. She acted like inviting him was no big deal. You said it's a family dinner. Is it really appropriate for me to go? Kai asked. There's nothing inappropriate about it. It's just a simple meal. We're allowed to bring friends, Yukino replied. They called it a family dinner, but it was really just a monthly meeting for the main Yukinoshita family members. The real reason was to maintain the family's power structure. Fumino Yukinoshita started the tradition. Yukino hated how tense those dinners felt, but she knew she couldn't go against her mother. Other people brought friends sometimes, so bringing one herself shouldn't be a problem. Kai agreed instantly. Since Yukino had already put the offer on the table, turning her down now would be bad form. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Yukino's lips. Afraid he might see her smile, she quickly put on her usual blank face. I'll have a driver pick you up when it's time. Sounds good. Kai nodded. It was just dinner, he didn't stress over it. They soon got to their classrooms and went their separate ways, since they were in different homerooms. Hayama and the guys still aren't here today, Kai noted as he walked into class, and took his seat next to Yui Yokohama. Yui's face lit up with a bright smile the moment she saw him. Who knows what's up with them? Yumiko Miura chimed in, smoothly dragging her chair over to sit on Kai's other side. She leaned in and whispered, I heard you rode to school with that snobby heiress, Aerie Sawamura. What's going on between you two? She raised an eyebrow as she asked. If you do anything to hurt Yui, I won't let you get away with it. Yumiko warned. You are literally the last person qualified to say that, Kai thought. Still, Yumiko looked at him with suspicion. Was he really sneaking around with other girls? Seriously, you have a gorgeous girl like me right here, and you're going out with others. Are you looking down on me? Yui couldn't help but look over too. But because she trusted Kai, she didn't jump to any jealous conclusions. Also, Yui was used to Yumiko sitting so close to Kai. Over time, it just felt normal. She figured they were all just close friends, so there was nothing strange about it. Don't overthink it. Airi's family just had a run-in with a cursed spirit, so I went to bail them out, Kai explained. Both Yumiko and Yui knew he was a jujitsu sorcerer, so there was no need to hide it. Were you in any danger? Yui immediately asked, her concern shifting entirely to his safety. Don't you know how strong I am by now? Kai said with a smile, reaching over to ruffle her hair to calm her down. TSK, compared to Yui, Yumiko was far more blunt. Clicking her tongue, she fired a shot across the bow. You're already calling her Airi by her first name. And you claim you two aren't close. Kai raised an eyebrow, turning his head to shoot Yumiko a half-smile. You're getting pretty cheeky, aren't you? Without missing a beat, he reached out and pinched her cheek, pulling on it. Ow, ow, let go. Yumiko yelped, slapping at his hand. Let's see if you dare run your mouth again. Kai laughed. Watching them argue made Yui laugh. Seeing her best friend and her boyfriend get along so well made her happy. To Yui, this kind of playful roughhousing was normal between friends. There was nothing strange about it. Hina Ebina. Sitting behind them, Hina felt awkward and left out. Before Kai arrived, the three girls were chatting happily. But as soon as he walked in, Yumiko and Yui focused only on him, leaving Hina feeling invisible. She might usually be quiet and in the background, but that didn't mean she wanted to be left out. If she didn't care about fitting in, she wouldn't have joined the popular clique in the first place. But what was she supposed to do? She couldn't just start chasing after Kai like Yui and Yumiko were doing. Sure, Kai was good-looking and had a bright, charming personality, but Hina had no romantic experience at all. She had no idea how to deal with something like this. I should ask Yumiko for advice when I get the chance. After all, strictly speaking, Yumiko was a latecomer to this dynamic too. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 120, 120, Soyo Nagasaki, Sakiko. I want to face this with you. 12:0 for words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Meanwhile, Sakiko Tagawa had already arrived at school. Now, she didn't have to worry about living expenses anymore. She didn't need to work several part-time jobs to get by. For once, she had free time to focus on herself. Sakiko stared out the window, lost in thought. He didn't come back. Kai had sent her a text, but knowing he stayed out all night, it was impossible for her not to feel a certain way about it. Furthermore, Sakiko had already asked her grandfather where Kai had gone the night before. Sayuri Sawamura. Sakiko knew the Sawamura name well, since both families were among Japan's elite. They didn't do business together, but they were in the same social circle. Finding out about Sayuri Sawamura was easy for Sakiko. Airi Sawamura was definitely beautiful, just like Sakiko herself. But for some reason, when Sakiko looked at photos of Airi and her mother, she felt Airi wasn't the real threat. Sayuri Sawamura was the real rival. Her mature charm was something Sakiko felt she couldn't match. Or perhaps it was both of them together. It seemed unlikely, but what if? In Sakiko's eyes, Kai was an exceptional man. Wasn't it only natural for women to throw themselves at him? Right now, Sakiko's only wish was for Kai to always remember her. He could mess around outside as much as he wanted, as long as he remembered to come home to her. That was enough. Simply put, Sakiko was starting to lose confidence in herself. What if the day came when Kai lost interest? What if he got bored with her? What then? It was a nightmare she didn't even dare imagine. Just then ding. Her phone buzzed. Without even looking, Sakiko knew who it was. Besides Soyo Nagasaki, no one else would text her at this time. Soyo's constant clinginess was starting to wear Sakiko out. She was beginning to regret everything. Why did she ever get close to Soyo? If she hadn't brought her into the band, none of this would have happened. Still, Sakiko wasn't a cold-hearted person. Resigned, she pulled out her phone to check. Sure enough, it was Soyo. But the message surprised Sakiko. Sakiko, I'm serious. No matter what it is, I can face it with you. Two people are better than one, right? If we do it together, I know we can handle it. Soyo truly believed Sakiko was in grave danger and needed Kai, a powerful jujitsu sorcerer, for protection. She thought Sakiko kept her in the dark just to keep her safe. But now she knew about cursed spirits. She wasn't ignorant anymore. So no matter the danger, Soyo was willing to stand by Sakiko's side. Obviously, Sakiko interpreted that text entirely differently. Soyo had sent messages like this before. Back then, Sakiko didn't know how to answer, so she ignored them. She never thought Soyo would keep trying. Just as she was about to put her phone away, an idea hit her. Sakiko stopped in her tracks. Two people are better than one, she muttered under her breath. She remembered the report about Arari and Sayuri Sawamura. Maybe that was why Kai hadn't come home last night. What a cheap trick. Now it all made sense. Those two women must have teamed up to seduce Kai. They actually used a trick like that to get his attention. In Sakiko's mind, Kai wasn't at fault at all. She blamed only those scheming women. If they could do something like that, why couldn't she? Plus, she now had a willing teammate. Since Soyo said she knew everything and still wanted to help, she must be ready. Sakiko just needed to go along with it. With a plan in mind, Sakiko made her decision. Still, she sent a quick text to make sure. Are you absolutely sure you're ready for this? When Soyo got the reply, she gasped with happiness. This was it. Sakiko was finally touched by her sincerity, and wanted to face things together. Without waiting, Soyo quickly typed back, of course. Don't worry, Sakiko. Kai already told me everything. Don't hold back on my account. As long as you let me join you, I don't care about anything else. It was just cursed spirits. She had already faced one before. If it meant staying with Sakiko, risking her life again didn't matter. Just as she thought, Soyo really did know everything. Sakiko read the text and shook her head. She didn't ask for details and replied, "Come over to my place after school tonight." This was perfect. When Soyo saw the confirmation, her heart soared. This had to mean she finally won Sakiko back. Soon, things would go back to how they used to be. The band would be together again. I'll be there right on time. Just make sure you take a shower before you come over. Soyo didn't know why Sakiko wanted her to shower first, but she agreed right away. She was too busy dreaming about getting their old friend group back together to worry about the details. Meanwhile, on Sakiko's side. At first, Sakiko wanted to tell Soyo to dress up after showering. But then she remembered she had plenty of outfits at home, and Soyo might not bring the right kind. She could dress Soyo up herself when she arrived. Happy with her plan, Sakiko put her phone away. Soyo spent the rest of her classes feeling completely happy. She couldn't stop smiling, which was a big change from her usual gloomy self. Even classmates who sometimes talked to her stared in surprise. But seeing her lost in her own world, no one wanted to interrupt. They kept their questions to themselves and left her alone. During lunch break. Still feeling great, Soyo went to find Matsuwakaba, who was busy with her cucumbers. Soyo knew all about Mutsu's odd hobby. At school, Mutsu was always planting or watching cucumbers grow, like she had no other interests. When Mutsu saw her coming, she looked a little surprised. She thought Soyo was going to ask about Sakiko again. But good afternoon, Mutsu. Soyo waved cheerfully. That was all she said. Good afternoon. The sudden change caught Mutsu off guard. She slowly raised a hand in return. Seeing Soyo just standing there, happily looking at the cucumbers, Mutsu had to ask. You seem to be in a really good mood today. Soyo kept smiling and even hummed a cheerful tune now and then. She was clearly happy, and Mutsu noticed right away. Is it that obvious? Soyo paused, then grinned and admitted, yep. Sakiko finally accepted me again. Accepted you? Mutsu tilted her head, thoroughly confused. What did that mean? Well, it's complicated, so it's hard to explain. But right now, I'm the only one who knows what's really going on with Sakiko. Soyo wasn't trying to hide things maliciously. She just believed that cursed spirits were way too dangerous to drag Mutsu into. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 121, 121, Mutsumi Wakaba, Shizuka Hiratsuka's office. 1206 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Most people find that knowing too much only brings trouble. That's probably why Sakiko Tagawa stayed quiet back then. Anyway, I can't tell you right now, but you'll definitely find out eventually. Is that so? Mutsumi Wakaba looked down and stayed silent. After spending a little more time there, Soyo Nagasaki finally left. As former bandmates, Soyo often visited when she had free time, not just to ask about Sakiko. I'm heading out, Mutsumi. As Soyo walked away, Mutsumi kept her usual blank expression. She was used to hiding her feelings. She's really happy. Even though she didn't show much emotion, Mutsumi was very good at sensing how others felt. She could tell that Soyo's happiness was real. As a friend, Mutsumi wanted the best for her. Still, while Soyo was happy, Mutsumi didn't feel happy at all. She also had no idea what Sakiko's secret was. Have I been left behind? It made Mutsumi feel left out. Everyone else seemed to know, and she was the only one who didn't. Didn't that mean she was being pushed aside? Thinking about it made Mutsumi's mood sink. She might not have noticed, but as she grew more upset, a dark, cloud-like shape started to form behind her, as if something bad was brewing. The afternoon bell rang, just like it always does. Right then, Kai received a text from Sakiko. I have a surprise for you tonight. A surprise? Kai looked at the message, a little surprised. He'd had surprises from the other girls before, and he enjoyed them. But Sakiko didn't seem like the type to do something like that. Kai didn't think too much about it. He hadn't gone home the night before, and if he skipped tonight too, it would seem like he was ignoring Sakiko. Kai was about to stop by the service club before heading out when Shizuka Hiratsuka suddenly found him. Hold on a second. Kai stopped, surprised to see the teacher coming his way. He grinned and teased her, don't tell me you're already craving it. If I remember right, your office is pretty soundproof. He didn't mind spending some time with Shizuka before going home. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Shizuka hissed, cutting him off. She quickly looked around the hallway, worried someone might have heard. But Shizuka forgot how scary her reputation was. Whenever the Iron Fist teacher walked by, most students stayed far away. She sighed in relief when she saw no one was around. You can't just say things like that. Aren't you worried people will start rumors? Shizuka didn't really care. She only took the teaching job to pass the time. As the heiress of the Hiratsuka Yakuza group, She didn't need to work at all. Her family's money would last for generations. Do I look like I care? Kai shrugged, looking at her without any concern. If she didn't care, why should he? Shizuka was speechless for a moment. She realized she was worrying for no reason. Kai was a jujitsu sorcerer, after all. Even if he got expelled, he'd still be fine. Never mind. That's not why I'm here. I actually need you for something else. I was actually curious what it'd be like in your office. Shizuka glared at him, clearly annoyed. After a moment of hesitation, she muttered, I have things to do today. Let's do it tomorrow instead. Part of her didn't want to turn him down. She'd never say it, but she was a little curious too. It sounded exciting. She hadn't had a boyfriend in over 20 years. Now that she finally had someone, she wanted to make up for all the time and experiences she'd missed. Kai didn't say a word. He just looked at her with a knowing, teasing smirk. Right on cue. All right, let's get down to business. Shizuka's face turned red as she tried to ignore his teasing look. Okay, go ahead. Kai knew when to stop teasing. He shrugged and waited for her to speak. Hayama and his group called in sick again. I'm going to do some home visits to check on them, and you're coming with me. Most teachers would just call or ask a student to drop off notes. They wouldn't visit in person. But Shizuka was different. Even with her tough reputation, she was a dedicated and responsible teacher. Is that all? Kai wasn't surprised, but he lost interest. Can't you go by yourself? Why drag me into it? Did he look like he had too much free time? Well, maybe he did. But she didn't need to bother him for something this trivial. Because I'm scared, obviously. Shizuka didn't try to hide it from him. What did she have to be scared of? With her iron fist reputation, who would dare mess with her? I'm not scared of people, Shizuka said, rolling her eyes at his expression. You think a cursed spirit is involved? Kai caught on right away. She thought Hayama and the others might have run into a curse. It's just a guess. When I called them, their stories didn't add up. They're healthy, but they have no energy. Even walking is exhausting for them, and they feel totally drained. They even went to the hospital, but the doctors found nothing wrong. If it were anyone but Hayato Hayama, Shizuka would have thought they were faking to skip school. But Hayama's honesty and perfect attendance made her believe him. If a cursed spirit was really involved, it was way beyond her. Bringing Kai along was the safest choice. With her asking like that, Kai couldn't say no. He nodded. However, he quickly pulled out his phone and texted Sakiko, letting her know he'd be late, but he was definitely coming over. Tisk, TSK. Texting your girlfriend again? Shizuka teased as he put his phone away. What, are you jealous? Kai replied with a smirk. As long as you keep me happy, I don't care what else you do. As long as she got her share, Shizuka didn't mind. She understood that a guy like Kai would never settle for just one woman. Still, she was happy with his abilities, and that was enough. Like Sonoko Machida always said, life is about enjoying the moment. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you tomorrow. Kai's words made her think of all sorts of things. She pretended to be annoyed but hurried to keep up with him. Meanwhile, after receiving Kai's text, Sakiko replied with a sweet okay. She could already guess what was keeping him busy. At least he promised to come over tonight, even if he'd be late. For Sakiko, that was enough. Ding dong. Just then, the doorbell rang. Soyo Nagasaki was outside, unable to wait any longer. Soyo saw her and broke into a huge, happy smile. After so long, she finally got to be close to Sakiko again. Come on in, Sakiko said, stepping aside to let her in. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 122, 122, you really aren't treating me like an outsider, huh? 1242 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Is Kaikuin not here? Soyo Nagasaki asked. She had already gotten used to him living with Sakiko Tagawa, so she was just curious when she didn't see him. Kai had some other things to take care of, Sakiko explained calmly, leading Soyo into the living room. That makes sense. Soyo didn't harbor a shred of doubt. She smiled knowingly. He is a jujitsu sorcerer, after all. It's normal for him to be busy. It made sense to her that someone as powerful as Kai would be busy. No wonder he was out so often. She even knows about that. Soyo's mention of Kai's secret identity surprised Sakiko at first, but she soon understood why. Are you really prepared for this? Sakiko asked, wanting to clear up any potential misunderstandings before they crossed the line. You don't have to go this far. Since you already know Kai is a sorcerer, you can just come over if you ever run into trouble. Now that the secret was out, Sakiko wouldn't make Soyo stay if she wanted to leave. As long as Soyo stopped texting so much, Sakiko was happy to be friends again. Of course I'm ready, Soyo interrupted before Sakiko could say another word. I know what you mean, Sakiko. Please don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Thinking about scary monsters like cursed spirits made her shiver. But with Sakiko by her side, Soyo felt brave enough to face anything. Is that so? Sakiko sighed. She was overthinking things. Since Soyo showed up, she was obviously mentally prepared. Then go change your clothes first. Soyo expected Sakiko to talk about the cursed spirit they needed to handle. Being told to change clothes caught her off guard. Change clothes? Sakiko didn't find the request strange. Yeah, Kai. She paused, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks, but she pushed through. He may not have said it outright, but it's pretty clear he has a certain fondness for specific outfits. I bought plenty of them. Whenever she wore certain outfits, Kai always paid more attention to her. She didn't need him to say it. You bought them. The first part sounded odd, but the second part got Soyo's full attention. Sakiko bought them. Those words echoed in her mind. Did that mean Sakiko wanted her to wear her clothes? Realizing the implication, Soyo's eyes lit up. I'll change right now. You don't have to look that excited. Was Soyo really looking forward to this? Kai's charm was no joke. Shaking her head, Sakiko led Soyo to the wardrobe in the bedroom. One section was entirely dedicated to the special outfits she had purchased. Soyo had been eager a moment ago. But seeing the outfits hanging there made her smile freeze. Some of these pieces had barely enough fabric to cover a hand. She stared at Sakiko in shock. She never expected the elegant, rich girl to have such scandalous tastes in private. Still, this made Soyo feel even closer to her. Sharing a secret like this meant Sakiko really saw her as family. I'm so happy. See if there's anything you like, Sakiko offered. Oh, right. Snapped out of her daze, Soyo started browsing. Within seconds, her expression twisted in conflict. Do I really have to wear one of these? No matter how bold she was, she had zero experience. Jumping straight into hardcore territory was asking a bit much. Sakiko understood. She had felt awkward and uncomfortable the first time she tried one-on-two. She only got used to it after doing it a few times. It's fine. If you don't like them, then, she wasn't going to push it. No, no, no. I love them. Soyo quickly interrupted. She had just fixed her friendship with Sakiko, and wasn't about to let something like this get in the way. This was nothing. She would wear it. After a long time browsing, Soyo settled on a maid outfit that looked relatively normal. How does it look? Having never worn a maid uniform before, she looked at Sakiko with anticipation after changing. It looks great. Sakiko nodded earnestly, not letting her down. Objectively, Soyo possessed a fantastic figure, a striking appearance and an elegant aura. She easily stood out among most girls, and even Sakiko thought she looked stunning at that moment. Kai will definitely love it. Sakiko added. Why did Kai have to love it? Things were getting weirder by the second. At first, Soyo didn't know much about Kai and Sakiko's relationship, so she hadn't liked him at all. She even felt a bit hostile toward him. But after learning he was a jujitsu sorcerer and seeing how he protected Sakiko, all that hostility disappeared. Besides, girls in Japan often admired strong people. Knowing how powerful Kai was made Soyo feel both nervous and excited around him. What do you think of Kai, Soyo? Sakiko asked, finding the silence a bit too awkward. Soyo didn't expect the sudden question. After a moment of thought, she answered seriously. I think he's handsome and really strong. He seems like a very responsible guy, too. She didn't see him as just a regular high school boy anymore. He was a sorcerer fighting cursed spirits in secret to protect people. That kind of hero was really popular with Japanese girls. Honestly, I'm a bit jealous you met him first, Sakiko. If I'd met him earlier, things might have turned out differently for me. Soyo teased, leaving it unclear if she was joking. Sakiko nodded in agreement. Very few people could resist Kai's charm. It made sense that Soyo would fall for him, too. Kai won't be back for a while. Let's get ready first. Sakiko suggested. Get ready. Ready for what? Trusting Sakiko completely, Soyo just nodded and didn't ask any questions. But soon, things changed. Following Sakiko into the living room, Soyo watched her turn on the TV. Oh, we're just watching TV. She thought it was going to be something intense. But as the video started, Soyo looked from the screen to Sakiko, who was watching with the focus of a student studying hard. The whole situation felt strange. Sakiko, you didn't put the wrong disc in, did you? She asked because the video was a little too obvious. There was one guy, one girl, and the same thing kept happening again and again. Then a second girl showed up. That only made things more awkward. Why was Sakiko making her watch this kind of video? Wasn't this a bit too much, even for a family? I've watched this one a lot. It's actually pretty educational. You should take notes, Sakiko said. Take notes. If anyone else had said this, Soyo would have stormed out in anger. But because it was Sakiko, she swallowed her confusion and quietly sat on the sofa, keeping her mouth shut. On the other side of town, Kai stepped out of Shizuka Hiratsuka's sports car right in front of Hayato Hayama's house, and let out a sudden sneeze. What's wrong? One of your girlfriends is thinking about you. Shizuka stepped out of the driver's side and teased him with a smirk. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon, https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 123, 123, they actually ran into a cursed spirit. 1217 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Since you already know, let's wrap this up fast so I can head back early. Unfazed by her teasing, Kai shot back casually. Shizuka Hiratsuka knew what kind of guy he was. She rolled her eyes, walked up, and rang the doorbell. Hayato Hayama's mother opened the door. Hayama greeted the teacher with a polite smile. When she was asked about Hayato, her smile grew even warmer. Hayato got a lot of his energy back this afternoon. A boy named Tobe invited him out. He should be fine to go to school tomorrow. As a mother, she was happy to see her son acting like himself again. Shizuka smiled. That must be Kakeru Tobe. After a bit more small talk, Shizuka said goodbye. Looks like they're fine. Just hearing his mother's words was enough. Back at the car, Shizuka let out a sigh of relief. Since there's no emergency, I'll take you back. I wouldn't want to make you late for your date with your little girlfriend. However, when she looked at Kai, she saw him staring at the front door of the Hayama house. Shizuka followed his gaze, then gave him a suspicious look. Don't tell me you're interested in Hayato's mom. She was older but still attractive. Lately, guys seem to like mature women. Kai didn't answer. He slowly withdrew his gaze and turned to look at Shizuka. While she looked at him in confusion, Kai raised his hand high. A split second later, he brought his hand down hard on her backside. Caught off guard, Shizuka jumped. That hurt. And we're outside. Ignoring the sting, she remembered they were out in public. What if someone saw? She didn't care about her own reputation, but she cared about Kai's. Even if he didn't, she still wanted to protect him. Keep talking nonsense and I'll hit you again. Kai warned. Hayato's mom was attractive, but did she really think he was that kind of guy? Shizuka had only been joking. She gave a dry laugh at his threat. All right. So what is it? Are we not going back? We're not going back yet. If I'm right, Hayama and his friends ran into a cursed spirit. Shizuka's playful mood vanished. She looked serious. A cursed spirit. Did you see one in the house? Was that what he was staring at earlier? No, just the leftover aura of one. The house smells like a cursed spirit, so one was definitely there. Since Hayato isn't home, the most likely answer is, it's attached to Hayato. He left, so the cursed spirit went with him. It just left its scent behind. She had only been joking before. Shizuka never thought Hayama and his friends would really run into a cursed spirit. What do we do now? As a teacher, she couldn't just sit by while her students were in danger. Get in the car. Kai said. Something about this cursed spirit felt strange. It didn't seem like a normal curse. Without another word, he got in the passenger seat. He waved his hand, and a bird-shaped cursed spirit appeared from a dark rift and flew out the window. Follow it. Kai had used a cursed spirit to track Tomoya Aki before. When it came to finding people, a cursed spirit was much better than any human. Shizuka had never seen this trick before, but she knew Kai didn't mess around. Without asking questions, she started the car and followed the bird. She expected the spirit to lead them to Tobe's house, or maybe Yamato's or Oka's, since they all skipped school. Instead, it took them right to a hotel. And not just any hotel, it was a love hotel. Don't tell me. Shizuka glanced at Kai. If you really want to do this, we should handle the cursed spirit first. Ignoring her teasing gaze, Kai stepped out and walked straight toward the entrance. Hey, wait for me. Snapping back to reality, Shizuka jogged to catch up. Deep down, she knew Kai wouldn't put his desires before a real crisis. She was joking to lighten the mood. That was her way. I'm sorry, but we cannot disclose our guests' private information. Shizuka approached the front desk, but the receptionist politely refused to provide any information. Is that so? Shizuka smirked. After a few sharp words, Shizuka walked away with a room keycard. How about that? Impressive, right? She held up the keycard and gave Kai a smug grin. Very impressive. Just what I'd expect from the young miss of the Hiratsuka group. Kai nodded, playing along. Shizuka had just mentioned she was the heiress of a Yakuza group, and that was enough to make the receptionist cooperate. In Japan, most people would rather not cross the Yakuza. The receptionist was just a regular worker, and the Hiratsuka name alone was enough. She let out a proud snort. She wasn't a sorcerer, but she could still help when it mattered. She didn't use her Yakuza ties to bully anyone, she was just protecting her students. As far as Shizuka was concerned, she had nothing to feel guilty about. This room. After taking the elevator up, Shizuka stared at the room number on the door. What's wrong with it? Kai asked, giving her a curious look. Shizuka suddenly didn't know what to say. Well, this kind of room is usually only booked by couples. It comes with certain toys. Of course, I only know that because Machida told me. In truth, Shizuka had thought about booking a room like this with Kai before, so she'd looked it up. But there was no way she'd admit that, so she blamed Sonoko Machida instead. She cleared her throat and quickly changed the subject. Anyway, the front desk said Hayama, and the other three booked this room. Why would four guys rent a place like this? There were only four of them, Hayama, Tobe, Oka, and Yamato. If there were girls, it would make sense. But for teenage boys booking a love suite with toys, something was off. Do you think the receptionist gave us the wrong key? Shizuka would rather believe it was a mistake than think her four male students had a special relationship. Only one way to find out. Kai grabbed the keycard from her. Wait here. Oh, right. Shizuka nodded. If there was a cursed spirit inside, running in would just get in the way. She waited in the hallway. The door swung open. Aho! As soon as Kai stepped inside, a bunch of terrified male screams came from the room, along with the sound of furniture crashing and people scrambling. Before Shizuka could even react, Kai turned around and walked right back out. What is it? What happened? Shizuka demanded. Good thing you stayed out here. Kai muttered. That only made Shizuka even more curious. Then, Kai gave her a look full of meaning. Who says a group of guys can't book a love hotel together? Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon. https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Chapter 124, 124, An Absurd Cursed Spirit. 1370 words. Next target, 400 horsepower. Shizuka froze. As the implication hit her, a look of absolute horror washed over her face. And no way. Was he serious? Could something like this actually happen right under her nose? Watching Shizuka's reaction, an amused smirk crept onto Kai's face. Well, it's just that I've never seen anything like this before. Everyone gets curious about strange things sometimes. If this was just a normal weird moment, she might have ignored it. But this was so bizarre, she had to check it out herself. Kai remained silent. Honestly, he had to agree. The whole thing was just ridiculous. Hiratsuka-sensei. After waiting a moment, Kai and Shizuka finally stepped into the room. Hayato Hayama, Kakeru Tobe, Yamato, and Oka were already dressed. They sat in complete silence, looking stiff and awkward. Some questionable toys were still lying around the room, showing they hadn't had time to clean up. Shizuka's mouth twitched. She put on a deeply solemn expression and spoke with the utmost gravity. Don't worry. As your teacher, I respect everyone's individual preferences. Rest assured, I am not a gossip. Kai glanced at her and thought, if you could hide that huge grin while saying it, maybe it would sound believable. Hayama and the others clearly saw right through her act. They looked miserable. Hiratsuka-sensei, you really won't tell anyone? This is your secret. I won't say a word. Shizuka answered seriously. Even though she goofed off sometimes, she knew where to draw the line. She wasn't going to joke around with something this sensitive. Thank goodness. Hearing her promise, the four boys let out a collective sigh of relief. It was just a preference. Everyone had their own preferences. As long as nobody else found out, they could live with it. Kai, why are you here? Once the panic died down, Tobe and the others finally noticed the boy standing next to their teacher. Since he was part of their group, they didn't think he would snitch. Kai had never been the gossiping type anyway. I brought him with me, Shizuka chimed in before Kai could answer. She didn't want the boys getting any weird ideas. Ahem, I figured since you're all friends, he might know a bit about the situation, so I dragged him along. At first, she thought Kai could handle things if a cursed spirit was involved. But seeing how strange the situation was, she realized it had nothing to do with curses. That's why she made up an excuse so quickly. Oh, I see. The boys accepted the explanation without question. Kai looked over the group and spoke up. No need to hide it. They definitely ran into a cursed spirit. Shizuka looked surprised. Hayama and the others stared at Kai in utter confusion. What's a cursed spirit? Before I explain that, let's go over the details. Weren't you guys supposed to be meeting Tobe's online girlfriend? How did it devolve into this? They were just regular guys. They wouldn't suddenly decide to cross swords without a reason. Something had to have happened. Online girlfriend. The mention of that sent a jolt through the group. Tobe's face turned an ugly, liver-purple shade. Don't even bring it up. There was no girlfriend. That bastard was a guy. Just talking about it made Tobe shake with anger. He had really cared about that relationship. But when they finally met, he found out the girl was a guy pretending to be someone else. All the money he spent on her was wasted. And then, Kai's expression didn't change. Online dating was always risky. Getting catfished was one of the better outcomes. And then, Tobe paused, not expecting a follow-up. He thought for a second before answering reflexively. At the time, I just felt like romance was way too much trouble. You always have to worry about getting betrayed. I figured, if possible, spending the rest of my life with my best bros wouldn't be so bad. You guys agreed. Shizuka couldn't resist asking. Who would have thought? No wonder she never heard any rumors about Hayama or his friends dating. This explained everything. Being asked so bluntly made them a little bashful, but they nodded anyway. We also thought it sounded like a pretty good idea. Unbelievable. Her class was full of eccentric weirdos, but this was a whole new level of degeneracy. Could this really be the work of a cursed spirit? Shizuka turned back to Kai, looking skeptical. Kai nodded. It's a curse-type cursed spirit. The word drew everyone's attention instantly. Kai ignored the stares and calmly explained. Cursed spirits are born from human fear, but they can also come from deep resentment. Lately, catfishing and online dating disasters have become much more common. Many people have started to really hate the idea of online dating. It's not surprising that a cursed spirit was born from that collective resentment. It sounded ridiculous, but with so many new cursed spirits appearing lately, it wasn't surprising that some weird ones would show up. As for its specific ability, since it acts as a curse, anyone afflicted by it ends up, well, exactly like you guys. What kind of twisted cursed spirit was this? Just because of some catfishing, did it make people fall for the same sex? If it were a group of girls, maybe it wouldn't seem so bad. But a group of guys? It just felt wrong in so many ways. Is there a way to fix this? Hayama shot to his feet. He still didn't really get what these cursed spirits were, but either way, nobody wanted to live under a curse. It's not hard to fix. Kai raised a hand, pointing it at the group. Unsure of what Kai was about to do, Hayama instinctively took a few steps closer. Kai snapped, throwing a hand up to stop him in his tracks. Just stay over there. Don't come any closer. Kai respected people's choices, but he definitely didn't want to get mixed up in this. He'd rather take a hit than risk getting caught up in whatever was going on. Hayama wasn't an idiot. Seeing the look on Kai's face, he immediately understood the implication. He let out a painfully awkward chuckle and rooted himself to the spot. Activating cursed spirit manipulation, Kai drew out a stream of viscous, pitch-black energy from the four boys. The dark matter coalesced in mid-air, forming the grotesque shape of a monster. The creature looked exactly like the stereotype of a greasy basement dweller. It was a perfect fit for a curse born from the bitterness of online dating. Honestly, it couldn't have been more fitting. What is that? Shizuka had seen Kai's power before, so she remained composed. But for Hayama and the others, seeing this for the first time sent them into a spiral of panic. They never could have imagined a monster like that was living inside them. Only grade 3. Kai checked how strong the spirit was and frowned. With his current power, a grade 3 cursed spirit was nothing. Before, he would have just gotten rid of it right away. It wasn't even worth the trouble. But when he thought about its weird ability, Kai decided to keep it. Why keep it? Because the technique was just too chaotic to pass up. If anyone annoyed him in the future, he could use this curse and turn them into a copy of Hayama's awkward situation. That would teach them not to mess with him. Is it over? For a moment, Hayama and the others stared at Kai with intense, complicated expressions. This was an actual, supernatural power. Catching the awe in their eyes, Shizuka cleared her throat and addressed them with authority. Kai's identity is strictly confidential. I expect you boys to keep your mouths shut. When the time comes, everyone will know. Understood? You understood. They weren't stupid. After receiving a direct warning from Shizuka, they nodded obediently. Every 400 horsepower equals bonus chapter. 15 advanced chapters available on Patreon. https://p-atreon.com/dragons. Just remove the hyphen to access Patreon normally. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.